I gotta know, what is something you wish people knew about you that they don't?
That I'm Hawaiian.
You need to get a tattoo on your forehead.
Back in the 90s, every stand-up comedian on TV would always talk about, ramen noodles and how poor people eat ramen. My mom cooked us like Simon and Spam every night, but she'd make it like, she'd like chop green onions up and like spice it up. I'd be watching like stand-up and I'm like, yeah, those poor people with their ramen. I'm like, not me with my
Simon.
With my fancy Simon, yeah.
Simon and ramen's not the same thing.
Not the same. And I was like in my golden pork loin, like this special, yeah. And I was just eating like Spam and ramen and I had like no idea. Artists, for the most part, I feel like we have to be self-aware or a little more vulnerable or sort of open to what's going on up here so we can like put it out into the world. But even on like a mental health level, self-awareness has saved me.
Velina Maikako, welcome to Keep It Aloha, a podcast that keeps it aloha by reconnecting to your Hawaiian roots and finding out that you're Max Holloway's cousin. I'm your host, Kamaka, and after my DNA test, I found out that I am indeed Max Holloway's cousin. Just don't fact check that. This is going to be a very interesting episode, but before we introduce our guests, I got to remind you to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/kamakadias if you want to support us for as little as $3 a month. You can get BTS of our podcasting and some other awesome perks that you won't know unless you check it out. If supporting us with money is not for you, but you still love this podcast, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps out so much with the algorithm and helps us get bigger opportunities in the future. I truly appreciate every single review and read them all. And to prove it, I want to share this review from Romani01. This person says, an incredible resource. I have just moved to Hawaii from the mainland and want to learn as much about Hawaiian culture as possible. This podcast is such an incredible fountain of information culturally and socially. Not only does this show give me a starting point for my research, but it also gives me members of the Hawaiian Polynesian culture to learn from. Mahalo for taking the time to share these stories and lessons from such a beautiful culture. Mahalo Romani01 for this awesome review. I hope you learned something new today. Okay, let's introduce our guest. Support for this podcast comes from Texaco in Hawaii, which features 58 convenient locations across the state. Fueling up at Texaco is fast and easy when you use the Texaco mobile app to pay at the pump. The Texaco mobile app is a contactless way to pay for fuel so you can get in and out of the gas station quickly. Fuel your car and fuel yourself. Pick up your favorite local snacks and ice cold drinks at your neighborhood Texaco today. Texaco at Techron, driving performance. Immerse yourself in the underwater wonders of Hawaii's marine life with Hawaii Ocean Charter's hands-on guided snorkeling tours. Whether it's your first time falling in love with Waikiki or you're rediscovering its beauty just like me, there is no better way to see it than from the ocean. Personally, it was one of the best things I have done this year. I got to snorkel with some turtles and fishes, and I was able to catch the coolest sunset over the water. Conveniently located in Kaka'ako with online booking and live availability, finding the perfect day on the water couldn't be easier with them. Ride in style on their unique and well cared for power catamaran that offers all the amenities you need. Locally owned and operated, their friendly crew lives for sharing their love for the ocean with others. Sunset cruises, guided snorkeling tours, whale and dolphin watching, coastal sightseeing, and fireworks shows are among the tours their guests love the most. Use code KIA50 to get $50 off of your next charter. Our guest is a Native-Hawaiian comedian from New Jersey. Still trying to wrap my head around that. He is an author, podcaster, jujitsu practitioner, stand-up comedian, and so much more. Most recently, he started the Back Row podcast and talks openly about many of his failures on his path to become a better human. You may have seen him do stand-up on Conan O'Brien, get yelled at on the Joe Rogan Experience, be preachy on MSNBC, be redeemed on Joe Rogan's podcast, be a little less preachy on Fox, get yelled at for being on Fox, and now he's here on the Keep It Aloha podcast. He has also been featured on Dr. Drew, Fox News, and much more. I am excited to meet him and talk stories today. His name is Jamie Kilstein. Aloha, Jamie. Welcome to the podcast here at Vai Collective. How you doing?
Aloha. I'm so mad you're not Max Holloway's cousin.
I didn't say I wasn't. I just said don't check it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I legitimately, I was like, it sounds like he's doing a bit, but there's part of me that's like, is he fucking Max Holloway's cousin? And I got he's one of those guys. I've met like plenty of famous people, but he's just that combination of, it's like the fighter part, and then just the calm coolness, and then
just a normal local boy.
I would lose it. I would lose it.
Yeah,
Hawai'i, right?
Yes, yeah. It's weird. I lost my cousin's number, so I haven't gotten him on the podcast yet. So eventually, when I find it,
you're saving it.
Yeah. I gotta remember who my auntie is first.
Right.
Like, ask for his contact information.
Let's
auntie,
just make
if you're watching.
Can we make this whole episode just a plea for Max Holloway to be friends with us?
Hello, welcome to 2 hours of trying to convince Max Holloway to come on my podcast and be our friends.
Here are reasons you should be our friend. I do jujitsu. Waianae is cool.
Yeah,
I'm staying in Waianae. Waianae's dope.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that. I know we've probably already lost like 4 listeners after they heard Fox News.
Oh yeah, let me explain. I go on Fox News to, God, as long as one of those listeners wasn't Max Holloway, we're fine. I go on Fox News to be like, hey, why you do this? I'm at the point where if I feel like I can be helpful to show another side of something, I will do it, right? Because in my head, when I got asked to do Fox News, because I debated it for a while, I was like, absolutely not. You know, you're supporting everything that's been said on Fox News. But the bottom line is, like, even the super liberal, MSNBC, and they've advocated for the same wars and had the same people on. And, so much of the mainstream, this is why I love this podcast, so much of the mainstream media, so much of the political system, it's like all run by the same people, different letters in front of the names. And so if I can go on and be like, hey, liberals are actually like not as bad as you think. And, I live in Texas. And so I have some conservative friends who do more for, poor people or women or whatever than a lot of my like old preachy liberal friends. So I'm just at the point now with everything I do, with politics, with religion, with, even being a Hawaiian, like recognizing that there's good people on every side. Maybe some of them are ignorant. Maybe some of them, whatever. And then there are bad people on every side, especially your side. And I think it's the most important. So many times we're afraid to call out our own side. And it's like, no. We need to be the ones to do that. So if I can get on Fox News and go in front of millions of people and be like, hey, not every liberal is like trying to turn your kid transgender or whatever you think is happening, I will happily do that. So please come back for people.
Yes, you've heard it here first. And just to clarify, this isn't a political podcast. We're just talking about it, but we will be talking about some really interesting stuff. And I'm actually still trying to figure out who Jamie is. Yeah. Because, so just for some context, we connected maybe a year ago, within the year, I can say.
I think so, yeah.
Just online. You've been following the podcast. You started reaching out. You sent me a long, nice message, and
I bullied my way onto this podcast. Is what you're trying to say? Yeah, he threatened
me.
I like legitimately was like, "Teach me how to be Hawaiian. Help me." And I just gave you dates. I'm like, "I'm booking a flight. Can I come on this date?" Like, yeah, it was aggressive.
I almost have my black belt in jiu-jitsu. You better say yes. Yeah. I'm gonna choke you out. No, but it was really interesting because I remember you messaging me, and I get a lot of messages on my podcast and my personal, and a lot of people coming on. And you didn't ask me to come on. You were just saying how much you appreciated the podcast and whatnot. And we started talking. And you told me about your life, how that you're a Hawaiian, but you never grew up here. Yeah. And just if we're just talking about physical features, you do not look Hawaiian, unfortunately.
No.
That's just the reality of it. So I was really curious. And then I see that you're friends with all these like famous people. Yeah. So I look into you. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I've just been following over the last year, and I really love your content.
Thanks,
man. One thing that I love the most about you is that you're very self-aware. And I love people who are self-aware, who can tease themselves, tease others, they know what's going on in the world, don't take themselves seriously. Pretty much what we just talked about in the beginning about you going on Fox. Like, there's always many perspectives to it. But that's why I really wanted you to come on this podcast, because it's such an interesting perspective that I guess we've had people talk about everything from Hawaiian to non-Hawaiian to just culture here. But somebody with your background is interesting because there's a lot of people who are Hawaiian that never grew up with the Hawaiian culture that listen to this podcast that know what you're going through.
Well,
but you're just on a very like hyper-focused journey of figuring out who you are, which I love, and I'm here for it.
Well, mahalo for that, man. And I know we'll get into the Hawai'i stuff a bunch because I have a thought on that. But just when you were talking about the self-awareness, I think that's the thing that's saved me. And, you're similar. Our artists, for the most part, I feel like we have to be self-aware or a little more vulnerable or sort of open to what's going on up here so we can like put it out into the world. But even on like a mental health level, self-awareness has saved me. Like when you look at, I was just talking to my girlfriend about this. When you look at those relationships where people just refuse to change, they're just like, this is who I am. I'm just a jealous guy. Or like, what a nightmare that would be in to just keep yourself in that box. The problem for me is sometimes I use humor and self-deprecation as like a defense mechanism where I will just be like crumbling mentally, but I can make people laugh about it because I'm very funny when I'm depressed and I'm not as funny when I'm like happy and stable. But you can't be a comedian and be like, hey, who here likes to meditate and get grounded? And everyone will be like, boo, talk about drunk hookups.
Yeah, tell us about your small dick. Right? Make a dick joke.
Oh, my dick's fine, everybody. Yeah. But like being able, to me, it's such a no-brainer, right? Like, so let's say you're in a relationship. Let's say you get into a fight. Let's say you realize you're wrong. Most people will double down on being wrong because they don't want their ego to take a hit. But it's like, bro, if you want to don't you just want to go back to being happy? Don't you want to just go back to like being cool with your girl? So why not just apologize? Like, to me, it's so exciting when I realize I'm wrong because then I get to apologize and I get to fix it. I think part of that is growing up in trauma, but I also think like jujitsu and comedy are things you have to learn how to correct on the fly. I can't just go up and bomb night after night and be like, I'm crushing it. You can't get tapped out by the same guy every day and not realize that there's a problem. So that's helped a lot. But geez, like it is one of the main reasons I'm not dead is like that idea of course I want to call myself out because my goal, I never want to be still. My goal is to be the best version of myself. And that should be everyone's goal.
Yeah, always leveling up. I love that. So we gotta start at the beginning.
I know. I can say I'll save the Hawai'i imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about that. But I always like to start at the beginning just so we can get to know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
Yep.
Where you grad, and what was it like growing up?
Okay. From New Jersey. Grad Punahou. I just hear everyone say that. So it was between that and Kamehameha. I dropped out of high school in Pennington, New Jersey. So was supposed to graduate the year 2000, dropped out 98, 99. And then growing up was weird, man. And I can start to talk about the Hawaii stuff so my mom grew up on Oahu. We would spend summers here at my tutu's house. And in Kailua did Kailua always look like LA or is that new?
I think it has this stigma of being a very whitewashed place. Okay. A lot of, not tourists, but people who live there are very white and not very Hawaii. Yeah. They're disconnected from the Hawaiian culture. Yeah. So that's like, so when you hear Kailua, it's like you think of like, oh, that's where all the white people live.
Yeah.
So that's what it is today.
If you told me there were multiple cheesecake factories there, I'd be like, that adds up. And so we would come over here and, it's the sort of like colonization that you will put on yourself, just being a kid, because you're so insecure as a kid, no matter what, like your goal our goal now as artists, like we want to stand out. We want to do something different. We want to add something new to the conversation. Your goal as like a kid is like, do not be heard, do not be seen, do not stand out, do not be different, blend in. How can I get everyone to like me? And so, now I look back at all the sort of like Hawaiian stuff my mom was trying to give to us and how we were just all me and my siblings were just kind of confused. And I just wish I could go back and I wish I could just ask her more questions. And I wish that I, kept using some of the words we would use around the house when I got older. But to me, it was just weird. I'd say, I'd start dating a girl and I'd say Hawaii and she'd go, it's Hawaii. And I'd go, yep, it's Hawaii, whatever. Just please still make out with me. And my mom would walk around, barefoot and in the streets of New Jersey. And to me, that was just weird, and so even like these like little things, like I am uncomfortable wearing my shoes in anyone's house. But I remember when I was a kid, the second I saw they had shoes on, I was just like, oh, okay, I got to like keep my shoes on and like just try to sort of fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really tough. We would come to Hawaii and I would smell Hawaii and I would feel like this is right. This is like where I belong. And then I would just go home and it would sort of be like, okay, I guess that was like a vacation, like when we go to like Disney World. And even though, my mom would call us like Lolos or complain about like the pukas and my shorts or whatever, I was just like, those are just words that my mom says, my crazy mom. And then, I just don't use them outside of the house. And even like the food, because we were super poor. And so a lot of the like cheap Hawaiian food, I didn't even know. Like my mom, it was like a hacky joke back in the 90s. Every stand-up comedian on TV would always talk about, ramen noodles and how poor people eat ramen. And I remember my mom cooked us like Simon and Spam every night, but she'd make it like, she'd like chop green onions up and like spice it up. And so I'd be watching like Standup and I'm like, yeah, those poor people with their ramen. I'm like, not me with my
Simon,
with my fancy Simon. Yeah.
Simon and ramen's not the same thing.
Not the same. And I was like in my golden pork loin, like this special. Yeah. And I was just eating like Spam and ramen and I had like no idea. And so there was a lot of stuff that I didn't even know was Hawaiian or until I got older. And then, this will be the last thing I say, what I'm realizing now, which is cool, is no matter how much I tried to like run from it or ignore it, or just, I once a year I would have a phase where I'm like, I'm going to learn about Hawaii. And I'd be like, give me the genealogy, give me the street we used to go to, give me, this. And I would just like space out. I'm like, I have to feel things to learn things. It's hard for me to like academically learn or read. But what's cool is like when I actually think about who I am as a person, which is like, want to protect the earth, a fighter, a storyteller, a musician. I'm like, oh, that's Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So even though I was trying to, or I felt so separated and I felt like I had such imposter syndrome, if you actually look at like what I do with my like livelihood and what I do on the day to day, it's Hawaiian as shit.
Mm-hmm. Dang. So your values were always inherently Hawaiian. You just never really realized that, or you couldn't really pinpoint what it was until you got a little older.
Dude, totally. I remember my mom once over COVID, I used to have a girlfriend who would like, she'd get annoyed whenever I would like wave to people, especially when I lived in Brooklyn, like New York, like you look like a kidnapper if you like wave to a child. And I'd always pet strangers' dogs or, say hi to people. And I remember I told my mom that once. I was like, she always like, she hates it when I say that to like say hi to people. And my mom just goes, don't let her crush your Aloha spirit. Like that's what that is. And I never thought of that. I just thought of it as like, I'm nice. But especially in New York, like that is rare. It is rare to, nowadays when people are just like on their phones all the time, like it is rare to start conversations with strangers. And that's not because like I'm inherently like a good person. Like that's the Aloha spirit that like my mom raised me with, where it's like, even living in LA where you're just nice to people if they can give you things. Like I've always been just like so adverse to that. And yeah, so you're right. I am like kind of slowly like piecing together that I'm like, oh, so many of these things I actually liked about myself, which are rare, come from Hawaii. Yeah.
That's so interesting because when you figure out where you're from and I guess where you get these certain traits, it's like you find this peace of mind, because we always want just an explanation of things. That's why we label things.
Yeah.
That's why we're afraid of the unknown, because okay, like, what is it called? Like, what is this place that we're at? How am I feeling? Even emotion. Like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? Especially new things that happen to you. And it's so scary. And like you just want to talk to somebody
Yeah.
and to be like, tell me what's going on with me.
What
you
am I?
Google, why am I sad right now?
Yeah, dude.
Why do I feel insecure when somebody says the word haole or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's all these things we just want an explanation for. And with the Hawaiian culture specifically, because there was so little information, because it was taken away from us and there's a missing generation, we're just trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I grew up with the culture, the language, everything. I have pretty much everything handed in front of me except a lifted Toyota and with dogs in the back ready to go hunting and fishing. That's like the one part I didn't grow up with.
That's how I can jump ahead.
That's how you get it.
Yeah, that's how I befriend Max Holloway.
You need a gold chain first. We'll head to the shop after.
Hell yeah, dude.
But no, and like growing up and seeing how insecure, there's like two spectrums. There's a spectrum of like, you're super Hawaiian, you look Hawaiian, you do Hawaiian things, but there's always something missing. There's always like, you need like that one puzzle piece to be the complete Hawaiian, to be like super confident in being Hawaiian. My thing was I never looked Hawaiian, so I never felt Hawaiian. Even though I spoke it with my dad, I still speak it with my dad. I went to Hawaiian immersion school. I always felt like an imposter because I'm like, but these people are like way more Hawaiian. Because at my Hawaiian school, they would say I'm the Asian kid, but when I go outside of my Hawaiian school, I'm the Hawaiian kid.
Right. So. Dude, that's so important that you say that. Cause like, I feel like people were going to see me if they're watching this on YouTube and they're going to go, yeah, that makes sense. He has imposter syndrome. Holy shit. That guy looks like a colonizer. When I see you, I go, well, this is it, man. You're living the dream. Like, you got like Aloha Hawai'i. You have a podcast called Keep It Aloha. Like, you certainly look more Hawaiian than me. But for you to even admit you have imposter syndrome to your audience is really huge, because I think the thing that surprised me the most is even the people, and you can take this with anything. Even the people that we think have it totally put together with whatever, you know, they have just as much imposter syndrome. Like, you telling me that you have imposter syndrome makes me go like, think you're crazy at first, but then feel better, where you just go, oh, this is just a normal thing. You know, I've been making sketches about being like newly sort of spiritual and screwing it up. And I thought that just people like me were gonna relate to these videos, and some of these sketches I've made have had like millions of views, and I have pastors writing me being like, dude, like, thank you for talking about this stuff. Like, you know, this is something I can't talk about, but you can talk about it. And so you go, a pastor has imposter syndrome about God? Like, okay, I'm probably fine. You know what I mean? Like, you have imposter syndrome about being Hawaiian, I'm probably fine. But I think the problem is, this goes back to the ego again. What we should be doing is having these conversations and uniting. But a lot of times what happens is we feel so much shame about our imposter syndrome that we just kind of hold it in, or we turn on other people. So, you know, I have family members who will like make fun of me when I try to like speak pidgin. And I know it's not because they're mean. I know it's because like they're dealing with their shit. They're dealing with their imposter syndrome, and that's how they're showing it. I'm dealing with my imposter syndrome by kind of hiding. When in reality is, if we just kind of came together and talked about our imposter syndrome, we could learn the language together. We could, like, you know what I mean? Like, we could help each other. But most people, they think it's just them. They think they're crazy. They're the Lolo one. And so they're going to hold it in, or they don't want to be a bother. You know how scary it was for me to message you or I mean, all of my Hawaiian activist friends, you, Kalehua, Kiliona, I was so much more nervous to write you guys than, you know, asking Bert Kreischer if I could come on the podcast. Like asking some super famous comedian, because this, to me, it's like, it's so spiritual. It's like who I am as a person. You know, I'm more nervous to talk about Hawaii than I am comedy or performing or whatever. But I think that if you have imposter syndrome and you're listening, whether you look like Hello Hawaiian or you look Howley or whatever, you got to find a community, man. And you got to, like, this podcast to me, and I'm sure for so many listeners, is that community when you don't want to talk to people, but use this podcast as a bridge. Use it as like a gateway drug to actually start building community, to start, finding people that you can like really do something with, whether it's learning the language, learning more about your history, just like finding Hawaiian friends, just to, the times I like voice memo with you and my friends in Hawaii, even some who I haven't met, it makes me feel like I'm at home instead of, trying to pull stuff out of my family, which is like so hard. Cause my mom was also, she's 70. So she was in that generation that kind of got like completely screwed over when it came to like culture and stuff like that.
Well, mahalo for sharing that. And I totally agree. I mean, my goal with this is to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Between the modern, the traditional, all of that. I feel like I'm the perfect hybrid of somebody who is like very traditional but still modern Hawaiian influencer or whatever. I fall in the category of an influencer. And I'm just here to show people like, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah. If these two idiots can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So there are people out there that are going through the same thing that you're going through. And, all of the stuff we talk about, it all relates to mental health at the end of the day.
Dude, totally.
Because, these things are what keep you up at night. These things are what affects your self-esteem. And knowing that you can talk about it openly and not feel ashamed of it is so empowering. I love talking about my insecurities. I love talking about my flaws.
Yeah.
Even stuff as simple as just like physical features like, hey, do you like my new haircut? Is it weird? Okay, it is. Okay, well, I can change it. Yeah. Like the beauty of it is like we can always change it. Like nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing once I learned like nothing is permanent. Like maybe I don't like how my body looks right now.
Yeah.
Well, I can change it.
Yeah.
Like that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, dude. We're so insecure, but you're right. Once we can talk about it. I mean, I walked in here to a room of 4 guys. And you guys were like, how are you?
Is this the start of a joke or something?
No. There's a Hawaiian, a Korean, and no. And like the first thing I said was one of your producers was like, you look like an MMA fighter. And I'm like, I'm fat and I can't stop eating plate lunches and I hate my body. And like, I sounded like a high school girl. But I would so much rather be open about it than, just hide. Because that's when you start, for me, when my mental health goes from like, today's a rough day to, I'm in trouble, I'm spiraling. It's when I'm not admitting to the problem, but when you can kind of just like be like, okay, here's what's happening. I'm on vacation. I haven't gone to the gym. I haven't worked out. I'm enjoying this trip, but I'm starting to get a little self-hating with my body. I'm in this new relationship. Oh God, I'm nervous. She's going to see fat Jamie and not love fat Jamie, whatever. And you just kind of you start like making these crowd, then I'm going to die alone. And it's like, you just add and add and add. You'll get sad about one thing. Let's say there's a job you don't get that you applied for. And then suddenly that goes to like, I'll never have a family and I'm not good enough. And I should have gone to, like, it just goes into crazy town as opposed to what you just said, which is just addressing the problem one thing at a time, not catastrophizing, just being like, hey, there's a solution here, figuring out what the solution is, and then just kind of moving on. But I think so many of us have dealt with so much trauma that we just spiral. Like the second one thing bad happens, let alone 2 in one day, you're just like, it's fucking over.
Yeah. So in your childhood, did you experience a lot of that?
Oh yeah.
That trauma and like, did you have outlets like sports or anything?
No, music. I played music. Yeah. I was like a stoner. I was just like a cliche. How can I not think I was white? I was in a stoner jam band named after a Simpsons reference. You don't get whiter. You don't get whiter. We might as well have been called like gentrification. It was so white. So I played music, but I didn't have a lot of male role models. I never played sports. I found MMA when I was like in like 1999 when like UFC and stuff was still like lawless. It was like illegal in most states. So that's really kind of like the only quote unquote like masculine thing I did. But yeah, I was like failing school. I was really good with music. And I thought I was going to make a living with this jam band. And I remember I gathered them one day for like a band meeting. because, again, get ready for something so white. We opened for the band that opened for Blues Traveler. And I was like, boys, we've made it. And so I like called a meeting. We were all like juniors in high school. And I was like, all right, we got to talk about tour. We got to talk about merch. And they were like, we have to go to college. I was like, what do you mean you have to go to college?
We're superstars.
Yeah, we opened for the band who opened for Blues Traveler. And so they left and they all went to college. And so I liked comedy, not as much as music. Still to this day, if I'm depressed, I don't listen to comedy. Like I put on my headphones, I listen to music. But I kind of started comedy just from like abandonment issues where I'm like, nobody can quit. So I just started taking the train into New York and doing stand-up. But like, that wasn't even an outlet because you're so bad at stand-up for the first like 10 years. It's not like I could get up on stage and talk about, you know, the nuances of dealing with like having like addiction in my family. Like, when you're a new stand-up comedian, you're trash. No matter how kind or funny or sweet you are or smart you are, something happens to a person when they go to an open mic where they're just like, oh, so I'm having sex with a fat girl and a midget. And you're like, what? Because you're just trying to be like edgy or do what you think comedy is. So that doesn't become a real outlet until you like really find your voice, which, you know, they say, and I agree with, takes like 8 to 10 years.
Oh.
So music was an outlet, fighting was an outlet. And that was kind of it for me. It was a lot of like, until I became an adult, it was a lot of just like holding in my emotions.
And you didn't feel like you could express yourself or talk to anybody. It was seen as maybe feminine back in the day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this to offend anyone. Like, we would use the term, oh, that's so gay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, you're being so gay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like, I wish I was more gay, so I dealt with my feelings. It's like, oh, that's so gay. Like, men don't go to therapy, and you're like, that's so gay. And then they shoot up you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was the time back then.
Yeah, bro. When
early 2000s.
Guys were like, the 90s was so lawless. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I was raised in the 90s, but yeah, feelings we didn't really have on lock. It was like, you just kind of like drop your kids off in the woods with like a pack of Newports and like some weed and be like, see you in a couple days, you know, like, yeah, we didn't go to therapy. And it's funny because like guys in the 90s, all we would do, every game we played was just some form of beating the shit out of each other. Like
Stick the prick.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure every state, we would just make up, like if you went swimming, every game was just a different version of trying to drown your little brother.
That's
like,
so funny.
Every brother should be in jail for manslaughter. If you had brothers, at some point, you tried to murder your brother. And then, do you remember the move where you'd be like fighting or pro wrestling, and then you'd hurt them so bad they'd start crying, and so you'd have to cover their mouth and just be like, shut up. And that's even scarier because now they can't breathe. I mean, the games we were playing, like they weren't games. They were like gang initiations. We would just put sleeping bags over each other and turn out the lights and then fight. Like so dumb. Meanwhile, like the girls are having like tea parties and talking about their feelings, which is why they're like semi like
and
emotionally.
then there's me in the back ripping off the Barbie heads before the shower.
I'm the Undertaker. Yeah, dude. So no, I mean, and then even like teachers and guidance counselors, like it was rough back then. I never like really trusted like a teacher. I had one teacher. This is super dark. 2 of the people who have helped me the most have taken their own lives, which will make you feel really messed up. Like I remember when it's so dark. I'm sorry I'm laughing at this, but like Rob Williams was one of my best friends, and he used to talk to me about my like depression, and we even had phone calls when I was feeling like suicidal. And so when he died, my first thought after like being like so sad, after like crying and stuff, is the first kind of thing that made me laugh in my head is I go, well, if the guy who talks you out of killing yourself kills yourself, like, you know, you're fucked. And so, but I had this English teacher who, this guy probably could have gotten fired for doing this. I remember I was just really struggling. I was going through with some family stuff, and he took me aside into like his office after class one day, and he goes, hey, you have, he goes, you're one of my smartest students. And I go, thanks. And he goes, you have a 12 in my class. And this wasn't like some kind of like prep school, like 12 out of 15. It's a 12 out of 100. But he could tell I was smart because I wouldn't read the book, but I could join in on the conversation because I would just like comment on the characters and what I would do if I was writing it or whatever. And he told me, he goes, school isn't for everybody. And I swear to God, like a movie, he handed me his copy of Jack Kerouac's On the Road. And he just goes, just read this. And essentially he was telling me like, I can drop out of high school. And that, it was a real risk on his part. But that really helped me because I think so many people, they think you have to do everything a certain way. You have to do schooling a certain way. You have to live your life a certain way. You have to do marriage a certain way and have this many kids and do this and blah, blah, blah. And anytime you want to deviate from it, no matter how much your soul or God is telling you like, hey, this is the path. When everyone else is doing the other path, it is damn near impossible to go do your thing. You know, everyone will support you once you're successful, you know, but telling someone, you know, that you want to drop out of high school to do comedy, telling someone that you want to quit your job at this law firm so you can do activism in Hawaii, like they will stop you, and they'll stop you not because they're bad people, but because they did the path they thought they were supposed to do. And, you know, and they're just scared for you, or they're trying to look out for you or whatever. And I think that having somebody give you permission to just go, hey man, I know everyone else is going to college, and right now the idea of you going to college is making you want to kill yourself because you have a 12 in my class. You are very talented. You can find a new path. And like, if that didn't happen, if that guy didn't say that, I would have been like pretty doomed. And then when I did Conan, I went to look him up to tell him, and he apparently had an affair with a student and then died.
Wow.
Bam.
That's life.
Even my good stories are bad. That's yeah.
Good lesson from a bad story, or a good story with bad in it, which, you know, still a lot of lessons to be learned.
Yeah, we'll just edit out the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think that being the kind of person that your friends can go to when they have an idea that they go, hey, this is kind of crazy, is really, really important, because our instinct is to shit on people's scary ideas when it's like the scary ideas are the ones that change the world. You know what I mean? Like,
crazy. It's good to have a little crazy.
You have to have a little crazy. You have to always go towards the fire. You have to always be a little out of your comfort zone. Because if not, like, what's the point, man?
Yeah. Well, life would be boring if not, you know.
So boring.
Yeah.
As long as you're not stepping on other people and you're being a good person and you're trying to add more to the world than you're trying to take, it's like, go do the crazy thing. You know, don't
especially when you're young. Especially when you're young.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I'm still taking chances at like, you know, 41. But yeah, when I see people who are like 22 and they're already caving and working a job they hate and just being like, dude, go get a camper van and go. Yeah, you did it. You Peace Corps. Like, yeah, go live a life that you can tell people about, or else like, man, you're going to regret it.
Yeah. And
then that's why so many older people, like, they get bitter, man. And being bitter is just like, dude, that's like a disease. That's the one thing. Even when my life got bad, I was like, don't be bitter. Don't be bitter. Don't be bitter. Yeah, that'll destroy you. And then you're the one who starts to take it out on other people, and you're the one who starts to shit on other people's dreams. And it's like,
don't I think within that bitterness is jealousy too.
Always.
It's like, you have like such a great life. You did all these things and people sound bitter. But I think it's just jealousy because they wish that they also did that, or, you know, they could have done that. It's just, but it's never too late. I mean, I'm 30. I feel like I've already lived a life. I'm at the point where I'm like, if I died tomorrow, I'll be totally happy with the life I lived.
That's how it should always be. That's such a great way to put it. Because yeah, I look at you and I go, yep, I agree. Like, there's a ton more you can do, and there's a lot more I can do. But when I think about the crazy stuff I've done or what you've done, you just go, yeah, that's it. But if you haven't taken any risks, dude, you know, like, you just, you stay. I mean, even I look back on some of the stuff, you know, I stayed in like really unhealthy relationships just because I go, well, no one else is going to love me. So I'd rather take like abuse here, or I'd rather, not be happy here because it's too scary to be alone, So and the reason I brought that up as an example is because I don't want everyone to think like, oh, what, I got to go be a comedian and like befriend Robin Williams, or like, start a Hawai'i podcast, or it's like, no. Look at the little ways you're holding yourself back every day. It could be, you've told yourself you're not a morning person. And so every day you sleep till like 10, and then you wake up and you're all rushed and groggy. And so you just down coffee and eat shitty food, and like, you just rush to work, and you get home and you're tired and you're kind of like shitty to your kids and blah, blah, blah. As opposed to, why can't you just be the person who gets up 2 hours earlier? What happens if you just like, it's hard for a week, and then what happens if you just get up at 7, and then suddenly you have 3 hours just to go for a walk, or meditate, or hang out with your kids, or read a book, or come up with like your side business plan. What if you do want to start a podcast, but you're like, I don't have time because I have this shitty job. It's like, well, wake up 2 hours earlier, like you have so much more control than you think. But these horror stories we tell ourselves about, I'm not good enough, they stop us from even trying. Once you try and you have like a little bit of success, if you wanted to start a podcast and you're just telling yourself, oh, here are all the reasons I don't know how to do this and I'm not interesting. Even the first time you get like 25 listeners, you're going to feel so good that that's going to get you to like your next step. And then that'll get you to your next step. But the problem is we stop ourselves from trying because we just settle. I'm just always the person who's going to work at the bank, even though I hate it. I'm never going to have like a romantic love life. I'm just going to be in this like mediocre relationship where we both kind of resent each other. And then eventually we'll have a kid and we'll resent the kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like it gets so toxic, and a lot of it is just because we're afraid to take chances. So also surround yourself with people who encourage you to take chances. I would rather have 3 friends. I would rather just be me and a girlfriend just going all in than being around like 30 people I have to like run stuff by, and they're only telling me here are all the reasons it's not going to work. Like I don't have time for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like everything that you're talking about speaks to my life, and the stuff that I try to put out, and take risk, and like not being afraid to fail. But it was always a journey to get there. It didn't just happen overnight. I mean, I've had lows where I would wake up at 10 in the morning because I didn't really have like a 9 to 5 job, so I could sleep in. But then I didn't really like that. So in my head, it's like these solutions, like you can think of the solution, but acting upon them is always hard, just to get you out of bed to do these things that you've been saying that you're going to do. And I think for me, the thing that helps me is saying it out loud, writing it down. Like, for example, one of the craziest things I've done was after the Peace Corps was I paid off $53,000 of student loans in 1 year by just doing odd jobs. And, that's after college. I have a college degree. I'm coming back to Hawaii, finishing the Peace Corps, telling people, hey, I'm going to pay off $50,000 student loans by just doing odd jobs. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy. If somebody told you that, you're like, oh, yeah, sure. Good luck. There goes Kamaka. He's joined the Peace Corps. He's a hippie now. He thinks he's going to pay off $50,000.
He's going to end up with more debt somehow.
Yeah. And I did it. I'm sure there was a lot of doubters, but I don't know, like failure just isn't scary anymore. Dude, like at some point, it's just like you just do it. Even starting the podcast, I'm like, I know that I'm capable of doing things. I'm confident in my ability. I know it's going to be great. And I'm just going to do it. And look at where we are now.
It's like I'm a high school dropout and I performed at the Sydney Opera House. Like it's, and I always knew I was going to perform there. And I always knew, when people were telling me like, you'll never get Robin Williams to come to your show. And I was like, I'm going to. And I had no evidence that I would. I just knew it was going to happen. And I have so many things like that. And again, just like you, riddled and self-doubt and like a lot of stuff in between. But those crazy things that I said I was going to do, I did them. And like, I plan on continuing to do them. And the reason I say that isn't to show off. The reason I say that is I want to double down on what you said, because it is far scarier. The ironic thing is people will avoid going after their dreams because they're scared of failure. But isn't it so much scarier? Isn't actually the only scary thing the idea of never having tried and then just living a mediocre life that you hate?
Yeah.
How much scarier? At least if I try and fail, I go, well, I tried. So now I can just go back to my shitty job. Whatever. It's not going to be like hovering over me.
Yeah.
But I think that people are afraid the amount of people I meet who go, oh, I want to start jujitsu one day, or I want to start comedy, I'm going to do an open mic. If they don't do it and fail, they can always tell themselves that they could have been good. When in reality, like, it does take a lot of work, dude. You work really hard on this podcast. I've worked really hard on stand-up. I've worked really hard. All of the crazy things that I'm good at, like the artsy things that look really fun, fucking hard. They're really hard. But if it's something you love, you enjoy it being hard. That's like part of the process, and you're cool with that. As opposed to, would you rather work hard doing something you hate, working for someone you don't respect? Like, no way, man. And so, yeah, to me, it was always so much scarier, the idea of not trying.
Yeah.
I'll fail every day and still be happier than if I was just like coasting by with a mediocre life.
For sure. I mean, I 100% agree. And I feel like that leaks into other aspects of my life, and just like asking for something, trying something new. You know, a lot of the regrets I think people have is like, oh, I should have done that. I should have traveled here. I should have talked to that one girl. I should have applied for that job, or whatever it is. But, you know, if you just do it, I'm at the point of my life where I'm just going to do something.
Yeah.
And instead of just like always wondering like what could have happened, just do it and be like, oh, at least I got the answer.
Dude, and also like by the time worst comes to worst, the girl says no, you don't get the gig, I'm always still happier having tried it. You know what I mean? Like always. And then usually you actually get what you want.
Yeah. Or you just find out what you got to change.
Yes.
Same.
You learn from it. You tweak it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me try. So everything's an experiment in life.
I came in a little too hot with that girl.
Yeah.
Let's pull it back next time. Yeah, totally. I wanted to say something off of the sleeping in that you were talking about. I think the most practical advice for anyone who's like trying to get their shit together right now is it starts in the morning. I think I heard Jocko talk about that. If you guys don't know Jocko, he's like this like crazy jacked Navy SEAL guy who like wakes up at 4 and like smears blood on his kettlebell. And like none of us will be like him, but you can take little lessons for like normies. Yeah. But he talks about if you hit the snooze button in the morning, the first decision your brain is making is surrender. The first. And so your brain gets used to that, right? The days that I don't look at my phone when I wake up and I read a book, I am so less reactionary, and I can retain information better. Even when I do get on social media, I'm talking slower. I'm taking in more information. When I go on my phone first, and it's just like a barrage of just like war, hot chick, canceled person, hot chick. I'm just like, ah, and I just turn into a crazy person throughout the day. And I can never, literally, if I check my phone first and then I go to read a book, I'm just like reading the same page over and over again. I can barely retain stuff. So what we do in the morning legitimately shapes the rest of the day. So what you have to do is like do the hard shit first. Do the new stuff first. I write the best in the morning over coffee, even when I'm doing stand-up, and that seems like a very, nightclub kind of can't write at night because my brain's already too much has happened. So I write the best. I work out the best. If you think you're gonna start going to the gym at like 6:30 straight from the office, like, oof. I mean, more power to you, but like it's gonna be really, really hard. That's why to me, waking up early was such a game changer, because by the time 9 a.m. rolls around, I'm like, I've read, I've walked in nature, I've like worked out, and I've written. And so then I can kind of just cruise. And then everything else I do is sort of a bonus. Whereas like if you wake up and you're like, man, I'm just going to like eat a donut and look at porn, you really think by 10 o'clock you're going to be working on your novel? No, you're going to be in this like shame spiral and be completely decimated by like 2, just like trying to sleep and pretend that day like didn't happen. You're going to be texting exes and like it would be a nightmare. But like, I'm telling you, man, you just like, instead of thinking about everything you have to change, you just get that one win in the morning, and that one win will lead to the next win, which will lead to the next win. And then if you screw up, cool, you just do it again. But you've already gotten so much under your belt. That's been the game changer for me. Like the morning is just like, it's everything.
I agree. I've been going to F45 in the morning. And when I was at my peak fitness, peak mental health, whatever, it was always waking up, working out, doing insanity or whatever it is, getting the hardest thing over there. This side.
Oh, yeah.
Get
I finished that.
Oh, I'll get you another one.
That Shaka tea is legitimately, I always thought it was just a cheap plug. It's not. That was really good.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
It was just like getting the hardest thing out of the way in the morning.
Yep.
And then, like you said, by 9, 10 o'clock, I've already felt like I've accomplished so much. Do a couple meetings, do a little work here. And then by the time, it's like 2, 3 in the afternoon, I'm just like, now I have the liberty to do whatever I want. Let me see if I still have like urgent things that I have to do. But if not, like, it's okay if I watch this TV show. It's okay if I go surf. It's okay if I go hang out with this person. Like, because you've already done something. So it's exactly like, you feel like, well, I already did all the other stuff, so I can do this. And then I like to work right before bed.
Yeah.
So I finished some stuff. So it's like, I have like this set times within the day where I do certain things, and it works for me. But
and it feels so different. Like if I start watching Netflix after a day of doing nothing, I feel like garbage. But if I, did a podcast, did a sketch, worked out twice, I volunteered, like I teach little keiki jujitsu classes, and then I get home at 7, I'm just like, I murdered my day. So anything, I could order pizza and watch 4 hours of Netflix and I won't feel bad because I'm just like, I just crushed my day. And now I'm doing whatever I think is fun. And usually when you crush your day, you're so wiped out that like I'm in bed by 9 anyway.
Yeah.
And again, I think so much of it has to do with like, what is the work you're doing? Like, what is your kuleana? And if you're working like a day job you don't like, what can you do outside of it? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be, that doesn't have to define you as a person. You may not be where you want to be right now, but like, I'm telling you, you can't wait for your life circumstances to be exactly where you want to be before you start like hustling, like you can't wait till you're rich to start donating to good causes. You can't wait till people always say, oh, I'm gonna do jujitsu once I get in shape. It's like, in shape for what? Go do jujitsu. Then you will be in shape for jujitsu. You got to just like kind of jump in and do the thing. So if you're in a circumstance that you don't like, like for me, I was so miserable being single because I was just telling myself that like, oh, I have to be in a relationship. I have to be in a relationship. So much of my worth was defined by a relationship. But it's like, if I sit around, what kind of girl is going to want just some dude sitting around being like, I got to get in a relationship. I got to get in a relationship. You got to make yourself the person. If you're single, be so happy about that time and make yourself into the person that will get the girl or guy you want. And that doesn't happen by, sitting around hating yourself, watching porn and being like, oh, these fucking girls now. No, dude, go do something about it.
Yeah. I think early on in my life, I thought, oh, I'm just waiting for my life to happen. I feel like there's something that's going to come and it's just going to change my life and it's going to, be the big ticket out of here or
the
whatever.
King of podcasting will knock on your door and hand you a big check.
Yeah, or whatever it was. I don't know what it was. Like maybe somebody will discover me for doing something and give me the best job ever or whatever. And it wasn't until I started just doing stuff and like, doesn't even have to be big, just doing stuff, just doing.
Yeah.
Like it can be on a small scale, it could be on a big scale, but the more you do, the more opportunities are presented to you. And it goes from you're waiting for your life to happen where things start to come to you.
Yeah.
So at this point of my life, because I put so much work in, a couple years ago that now things will come to me, but I'm not always just waiting for things to come to me. I'm still pursuing sponsorships. I'm still pursuing guests.
Yeah.
I'm not just waiting for Max Holloway to slide in my DMs,
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm still working, but the more you do, the more of these opportunities are going to present itself.
That's it. And it could even be, those little jobs that you did, like that have nothing to do with entertainment. It's like,
but they're connections.
They're connections, dude. And they're just, you find people who are like-minded to you. You find people who have the same sense of humor as you. You find people, it's I truly believe that God or the universe or whatever, like there is a plan. We're supposed to do something. And we know that because whatever we're doing, what we're supposed to do, it feels like you feel peace.
You're not, oh.
Yeah.
It feels right in your nut.
You feel aligned. And then you get these little like signposts all along the way. And it could be like the teeniest, tiniest thing. But you just, to me, you keep getting these little like thumbs up, these affirmations, like you're on the right path, buddy. But you still have to do the work. You know, God's not just gonna, sit you in your dream job. Like you got to get dirty. And you have to learn your lessons and you have to make mistakes and you have to have grace for yourself. But if you're just sitting around and waiting, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And even if you're sitting around and praying,
it's
not going to happen. Like you have to do the work. And it's so much more rewarding when you do.
For sure.
And the quicker you make those mistakes, I heard some self-help guys say this once where like, let's say you knew you had 10 failures before your dream job or 10 relationships before the woman you're going to marry. You wouldn't be as bummed out failing, right? Because when one of those fails, you go, oh, I only have 9 more, right? I only have 8 more till I find her. But the problem is we don't know how many failures we have, but it's still the same thing. It's like you said, as long as you're learning from it. If every time you break up, you just blame her, oh, fucking women, then it's like, okay, you're probably not you're going to keep making the same mistakes, right? Or if every time you don't get a job, you just, blame them or whatever. It's like, no. You always have to be bettering yourself. But as long as you're doing that, man, keep failing because the more you fail, the faster you are going to get to to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. I think I heard a similar thing where it was more of a sports reference, like the best shooters only shoot like 40 to 50%. The best batters only bat like, I don't know what's the high number, like 0.3, like 300%.
I only know about fighting.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, even fighters, they, when it's only the best of the best who have great records.
Well, and they fight like once a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once you think about that, let's just say we're like a 50% shooter. That's probably like one of the best. That's probably like Shaq always doing layups at the rim. And he's only making it at 50%. That means every other shot he does, every other thing that you do, you're going to miss. Yeah. You're going to do something good, you're going to miss. You're going to be good, you're going to miss. You're going to be good, you're going to miss.
Yeah.
But then everything just accumulates and then eventually it like adds up to a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude.
But like we think that everything that we do has to hit, has to go in. Every shot we take needs to be a bucket.
I think it doesn't. I've been we're talking about Jesus so much. Let's talk about Buddhism. I think that like the Buddhist theory of non-attachment is so important where you just kind of go, non-attachment means that you're staying present, right? If it's good, you're not attached. If it's bad, you're not attached. That is so hard to do. But if you can combine that with just joy, which I think you're really good at, I think I'm good at, that's the trick because you're just like, hey, I'm going to put myself out. Like when I was going on like a ton of auditions, I would put so much pressure on myself. So I would I would get into this festival and I would get immediately depressed after I got back because I would just be waiting for, just like some producer to call me. And finally what I started doing was like, I'm just going to go do the thing, audition, perform, whatever. And then I'm going to forget it ever happened. And I'm just going to move on to the next thing. And either the next thing's going to fulfill me or then maybe these guys call me back, but you're like enjoying the experience, like even here this week, me being like, okay, well, if I don't move to Oahu, if I don't move to Hawaii, like what was the point? And then I'd have to stop myself. And I'm like, yo, just look at the ocean. You're here right now. You don't have to be thinking about moving or how you're going to do that. Just like, look at the fucking ocean. And that to me was like a game changer. Like anytime you're getting so stressed out, or you're thinking too much about the future, or what if I fail, or what if this happens? Look at the ocean. Look at the sky. Look at the ocean. Take a deep breath, and just like you can truly feel presence if you want to, because it's so rare to feel presence that you will feel it because we're so often in our heads. And if you can just look at the times I'm depressed and I just look at the ocean and you just start to like actually think about what the ocean is and what Earth is and you feel like you're on drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm fine. Like, it's going to be fine. And then once you get grounded and once you get present, you just move on and get at it again.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing I'll add on to that before we take a shishi break and get into our fun game.
Yes.
Hope you're ready. I'm reading a book called Relentless by
Grover or something.
Tim, I forget. He's the one who coached Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant. So I got to the part where he talks about Kobe and like feeling pressure. Kobe said that he doesn't play to win, he plays to play. Because if you play to win, there's the pressure of failing.
That's so good.
So if you just play to play, there's no pressure. So that goes back to what you're saying, and how I look at life is everything I'm doing is just for the experience. It's not to win or to lose or to get something out of it. It's just to go through to be present and be open to the experience of it all, whether that's good or bad, because it's all, now we go to Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's everything you do, you're just gaining experience and you're leveling up. So it all just adds to your life, and play to play, don't play to win.
Yeah. I mean, when you were like talking about being put in boxes, like in the very beginning of the podcast, I've tried to put myself in a box so many times, or I've transitioned from music to comedy to this podcast is about that. And now I'm doing sketches, and somebody else could look at that and be like, geez, he's all over the place. I look at it as just like, man, I got to do a bunch of dope shit, and like some of it really, really worked and some of it completely failed. But even the stuff that failed, like I wanted to do it. So I got to do it.
Yeah.
That's the rules. Yeah.
Well, here's an example of doing something, just putting so many things out there and hoping something sticks is our podcast. Our goal when Jordan started coming on and producing this, how it blew up, is that I would only want to post certain clips that are the highlights of the episode and share with that.
I'm bad at this.
And then I would be like, okay, I'm only going to post 3. I don't want to flood everybody's feed. And Jordan's like, post it all. Like I'll have 9 clips. I'm like, oh, but I can only post 7. He's like, post it all. Who cares? Because not every clip that we post is going to hit and go viral, but maybe like 1 out of those 10 clips goes viral and it just grows. It helps everything else grow. It trickles down to everything else.
Dude,
but that's just an example. Just throw things against the wall and something will stick.
And by the way, if you're listening, please know, like, we're talking a bunch of shit right now, but like I needed that advice, like specifically, because I remember once one of the sketches I did, that passive aggressive prayer, is at like 5 million.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen him, go check out Jamie Kilstein on Instagram. Funny stuff.
Oh yeah, at the Jamie Kilstein. And then the next one I posted got like 100,000 views or something, which is so many people. That is so successful. And in my head, I was just like, God, it's never going to be the same. This morning, I posted a podcast clip that got like a couple thousand. And I almost deleted it for that exact same reason. I was just like, oh, it's going to look bad. Like, what am I just going to do? Have 1 5 million video and like that's my whole profile where I'm like, remember when I was good? It's like some things are going to hit. But what I told myself today was I got, and this is going to sound so silly. So the video got like maybe like 10,000 views and I got like 6 new followers, which is not good. But it's also, that's 6 new followers that if I didn't post that video, it's like there's 6 people who would have never heard of me. And what if that one person becomes like a super fan of the show? Or what if, more importantly, what if I say something, because I talk a lot about mental health on my Instagram that really helps that one person and they wouldn't have seen it. Because I almost deleted it this morning where I was just like, oh, this is stupid. It's not hitting and people are going to get sick of my stuff if they just keep seeing. But it's like, man, if those people leave, they leave. And
yeah. No, I got past that point where I'm like,
how long did it take? Because I'm in it pretty hard.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You already your quality's solid. I've been doing this for almost 2 years, which isn't a long in the sense of podcasting. We had success really early. But I would say just after like 8 to 10 months of doing anything, I think you start to see real big changes. But as long as you're consistent.
Yeah.
But I got past the point where I'm just like, should I hide the likes? I'm like, no. I have videos that get 100,000. I have one that has 1 million. I have some that just gets like 100 likes.
Yep.
There's 10,000 likes.
Yep.
I just don't care anymore.
Yeah. You just got to just like post it and then just
let
the universe take care of it.
Yeah, it is what it is. But let's take a quick shishi break and we'll be right back. All right, we're back from a quick shishi break. Mahalo to our sponsor, Shaka Tea, for providing the best quality shishi in town. Always goes right through us.
It's
right.
really good.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody confirms this on this podcast, which I'm a fan of. And it just, again, sounds like a plug. I didn't know I was going to like it this much. I straight up had food poisoning last night and should not be doing this podcast. I think I just had to cancel a show tonight because I don't want to. And I think he thinks I'm lying because he saw you post that I'm on the podcast. Let the record show. I shouldn't be here. I'm very ill. But the shaka teas make me feel better, dude. The ginger one. And now what's this? The mango one?
hibiscus.
Oh,
Mamaki tea is good for you. Native-Hawaiian plants.
so good, man.
Yeah, us Hawaiians, we always, it's the Hawaiian connection.
That's it.
It's healing.
Yeah.
It's like Dragon Ball Z, like Dende and the Namekians.
Yeah, if you're Hawai'i, it will destroy your insides. It will colonize your
poison.
insides like you colonized us.
Yeah. So even though he looks it, the Hawaiian blood is circulating through his body and
I was-
merging with the Mamaki tea.
If I was white, I'd be dead right now drinking the shaka tea. Poison your white friend, shaka tea. I don't want to lose you, your sponsor. I'm sorry.
I don't think they watch this. It's fine.
They're good.
But there's no way they're going to be watching an hour into this already.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
We cut up the social clips, so we just won't put in the social clips.
Okay. Oh, that's
That's
pretty
a majority of people watch anyways. The real ones, which we appreciate you all, are still here
Mahalo.
listening. Okay, so this is a segment that we've played before. It's one of my favorite segments called Local or Lolo. This is presented by Texco in Hawaii, okay? So listeners can play along, and you're going to be playing with Jamie. You have to tell me
nervous.
if this is a local thing or a Lolo thing, like, because you already know the word Lolo.
I know,
You already-
Lolo was one of the
crazy.
only words I learned because my mom would call me that all the time.
Exactly. So these are things that are commonly done here or believed here in Hawaii. And don't worry, like, even some people that live here don't even know. So people are playing along with you.
He had to tell me that because I was just like, bro, I'm just feeling comfortable in my Hawaiian skin. I don't want to like flop this stupid game. And it's just like, I just go back to being like, I guess I'll just be white again.
Yeah. But don't worry. Like I said, the people actually watching this full episode, they're like in the thousands.
Yeah.
The people that watch the clips are in the millions.
Yeah. Okay.
So only that max, like
Great.
a couple thousand
That's fine.
people will.
That's fine.
Well, no.
They're my people. I've said enough for them to feel bad for me this episode where they're like, we're not going to be mean to him just because we don't want him to kill himself.
All right. First one. All right. Let's start easy. People put flowers in their ear to signify their relationship status. Is that local or is it low?
I don't know if it's still a thing, but it was local, right? Wasn't that like back in the day? I don't know if it's still.
So, okay, let me just give you an example. So if I put a flower, or if a girl puts her flower in her left ear, that means she's taken.
She's taken, yeah.
If she put in the right, that means she's single.
Okay, so I've heard this is a thing. So
Okay.
I'm going to say local.
It is local.
Yes.
Nice. Hey, 1 for 1. Great start.
You've got such a game face because I was so confident it was local and I was looking at you and I was just like talking myself out of it where I'm like, he's judging me. This isn't right. Okay.
Well, I just came from filming a game show for a couple weeks. So
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm on game show mode.
This is good.
All right, next one. If you step on Vana, which is like the sea urchin, those pokey sea urchins in the sea, you have to shishi on it to make it better.
I remember that they said that with Portuguese man o' war.
Same thing. Yeah, Vana or Portuguese man o' war.
Okay, so local.
Final answer?
Well, not anymore. Yeah, sure.
All right. So this is a little tricky because it's Lolo. It's not a real thing. There might be some science behind it, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's better options.
Is this for man o' war as well?
Yes, we joke around that you have to shishi
Yeah.
on it, but I don't think it's a real thing.
That's so funny.
So it's a local thing that we say that is Lolo.
Fair.
Okay.
Let the record show I've never let anyone piss on me.
Yeah,
Just for the record.
I would have. I just haven't stepped on Vana.
Right?
I'm not opposed to it. I just
He just
haven't.
keeps saying, oh
Yeah.
no, I stepped on it.
Yeah, like Kamaka, we know you didn't
We
step
know
on
you
Vana.
didn't step on it.
That's just sad.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a piece of trash. We won't pee on your feet, Kamaka. If I hear that one more time.
Come on.
Okay, next one. Most locals reverse park into a stall so that their registration isn't stolen. I'm sure you see a lot of people reverse parking.
I've seen a lot of reverse. Okay, so I live in Austin right now. And most people reverse park because they think they're all like special forces, Green Berets, and they all have guns and they want to be like Jason Bourne so they can like escape. But I have been noticing that a ton of people reverse park. And I didn't know if there was a reason why. So what did you say?
So the reason we do that because there's a lot of registration theft here. Like, like the register, you put the sticker on and safety check, you put it on. So a lot of that gets stolen. So the reason we do that is that it's harder for people to steal it.
Damn it.
Okay. Can I get Keone's number for me?
Oh, yeah.
Just pause.
Yeah. You can just take my phone.
Just tell me the answer.
Yeah.
Well, just because there's like some that show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we just continue on? Or should we just wait?
So this will be quick.
Oh, okay. Well, you can think about it now.
I mean, it is just a guess. But I have been wondering why so many people reverse park. In like spots that don't look easy. That I would not reverse park. I think I'm going to say local and get screwed again.
That's so funny. This is a fun game. I love this game. Because it's also fun because I get to make up stuff.
I know.
As
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. And it helps me get creative. And I got a few from people. Okay.
They just came and they were like, can we talk to the manager? And I was like, dude, they actually left.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what to do. Do you have to timestamp this? Should I like clap or something?
no.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Are you guys doing local or low?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk shit. I'm a shit.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll fuck you guys.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right. So reverse park in parking stalls to avoid a registration or safety check getting stolen. Is that
Okay.
local or Lolo?
I want to say local because I've just noticed a lot of people backing up into really hard spots. But I think it's also such a funny reason that I feel like you wrote it. Fuck it. I'll say Lolo.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
It is.
What is the
Lolo.
reason though? Do people just like doing it? Because I saw people do it in like small spaces for like trucks, like where it's completely nonsensical to back up.
For me personally, I find it easier to reverse park
You
into
do.
stalls.
Okay, I don't.
Because you can see the mirrors and stuff. And especially if you have a reverse camera, you know how close you are to the
That's
back.
fair.
And also it's just like you can just go straight out of the stall.
Well, that's what I love. Yeah, that's the whole like.
Yeah. So pretty much I reverse park into every stall unless it's one of those like diagonal stalls that you got to go forward.
Dude, I'm just so happy I'm not the one. Like, I was so scared I was going to be the worst in history. So I'm like,
You're 2 for 3.
yeah, this is great.
Nice. And the second was kind of tricky. So 2.5. All right. This one.
You're so
Number 4. You're allowed to play competitive basketball in Hawaii in your slippers or barefoot. Is that local or Lolo?
define competitive.
As in like a rec league and like an actual competitive league, not just like
That's
pick up
interesting.
ball.
I wouldn't say slippers because I think that's dangerous. Barefoot would make.
Like there's no rule on like you have to wear shoes.
You have to wear.
Because no shoes, no shirt, still get service. That's what it's like in Hawaii.
Right. Because I'm like, I'm only barefoot in the sport I play. I feel like. Oh wait, so we're talking like indoor leagues as well?
Yeah, like an actual like organized league,
Okay.
not just like pickup ball.
Then it's got to be. It's got to be Lolo, right?
All right, you got it. Okay. I thought maybe I could trick you on that one. That was a stretch.
That was the Howley test one.
That was a stretch. All right.
If you didn't say slippers too,
I should have just said barefoot.
I think if you just said barefoot, I maybe would have.
Okay, and originally it was just slippers and I added barefoot,
That's
but I
funny.
should have just went one or the other.
Although, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's another one. Okay. This is a real Hawaiian one. After a child is born, the parents would wrap the umbilical cord in grass woven cloth and hide it in a rock crevice or toss it into a bottomless pit and it, found in like a crater or whatever. Some said doing this would make the child strong. Others say if the cord was destroyed or eaten by rats, then the child would be destined to grow up a thief. Is that local or Lolo?
I mean, it sounds like it could be like old mythology, but are you saying this happened in like 2011?
It's just a Hawaiian thought. Like, and I put a lot of time to write that out.
I was going to say that was very, The reason I want to say Lolo.
ChatGPT is great, you know.
The reason I want to say Lolo is because of the term bottomless pit. Like the idea of being in a hospital and being like, hey, baby, I'll be right back. I have to go find a bottomless pit to throw your umbilical cord in. I mean, I don't want to be insulting. If it is like, I'll go Lolo.
It's local.
Damn, I'm a piece of shit. I hate that.
It's a local thing. It's a thought where, you know, if you there's in a lot of cultures too, like in Madagascar, the uncle eats the foreskin of the child.
Yeah.
There's something like that. And in my family, my dad always takes the umbilical cord or the placenta or whatever it is, and he buries it with a tree, and it grows up to, like, you know, a tree or whatever. So like that'll be like, oh, that's Kamaku's tree, that's Sophie's tree, whatever. That's cool. Yeah. So it's a true thing.
It sounded like it, like, so I didn't know this, but when I got my alandiho, and they give you the, like, all the blood to be like, bury this where you want it. Yeah. And so like there are, and I think that stuff's so dope. So I don't want to sound insulting. I hate that I had to call it Lolo. It was specifically you being like, I worked hard on this. And the term bottomless pit was so funny to me that I'm like, this motherfucker.
Yeah. So don't feel bad.
You know what?
Just feel wrong.
You do one game show and you come back as a fucking monster.
Don't let me on the next one. Yeah, is also, just to touch upon that, isn't it cool how you're sitting in the same chair Kalehua is sitting on, and he's the guy who gave you your alaniho?
I thought about that.
This is the same place as well.
And that was one of the, I usually listen to the show on podcasts, but that was one of the ones I wanted to watch because I wanted to like really take it in, knowing that was happening. And when you told me you're not at the new studio yet, I got very happy. I was like,
it's a totally unplanned. Like, we always planned when I came back to be at our new studio, but it just wasn't ready yet. So I texted Keone and said, hey, we need a spot. And
perfect.
now we're here. So
can we talk about that guy?
Yeah.
Just like such wisdom.
It's the thing about him is he's so scary and filled with wisdom, but he's also so chill and cool. You just wouldn't expect it. And like he has like a beautiful voice of an angel at the same time.
I know.
And I'm just saying, he's just a very confusing guy to figure out just by looking at him.
So nervous when I showed up. Because it's like, it's one thing. I mean, he's intimidating if you're just like, you see him at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, he's just going to be like, chow, 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 chow.
He's got a pointy object.
And I also, like, I was just like, if I'm not Hawaiian enough, he's going to make me go home. Like, it was a disaster. It was amazing. It was like a perfect experience, but geez, I put a lot of, anyway, I'm just stalling.
Yeah. All right. Next one. If you put chili pepper in your eye, it cleans your optic nerve. It's a local practice that we've done for many, many years. Part of our aulapa'au, like.
Stop using Hawaiian words. This can't be right. Is it?
Ni'oi is the proper term.
Chili
pepper. Like chili pepper water. You go like this, you put it inside your eye, and it cleans your optic nerve.
Again, I'm overthinking this. I got to just go for, I'm going to say Lolo, because that sounds like something that like your fraternity brother would be like, bro, you know, clean out your eye, you put chili oil in it. I'll go Lolo. I'm going to be so mad if this is local.
It's local.
Fuck, damn it.
It's a part of a laulapa'au, like traditional native medicine.
Yeah.
What is the word in English?
Just the word chili is just so like, you don't think
chili pepper. Yeah, no, I've done it before. I think it was chili pepper water.
Yeah.
You put it in your eye and it burns, but then it like clears everything up.
I got so much to learn, man.
Yeah, you should try it. So yeah, it's a local thing.
I gotta go. I don't even deserve this alandiho.
I should do this with actual local people, like some of my friends. I'm sure they'll get it wrong too. Just trying to make them feel better, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. 7th question.
How many more fucking questions are there?
I got 10. It's only 10. I can't just do 5. Like, what kind of
I
game
thought
is
there were
that?
going to be 5, and I was just like, all right, you're getting like 3 in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
That's solid. Now we're
halfway there.
I'm panicking. Yeah. We're just sinking.
It's bad luck to whistle at night because it's bad luck to whistle at night because it's believed that when you do that, you're calling ghosts.
I'll say local.
Are you still thinking?
Yeah, no, I'll say local.
Local? Fine.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, local. All right,
yeah.
back in the winner circle.
See, I was just starting to like, don't overthink it. Just go. There's a Zen Buddhist thing I love where first thought, best thought.
Okay.
Just
Nice.
like
First thought, best thought. I like that.
I
Yeah. So
harness
that's
that.
why you'd get scoldings if you whistle at night. They're like, hey, don't whistle at night.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. All right. Next one. You shouldn't cut your fingernails or hair at night. It's also one of those things that are seen as bad luck in the Hawaiian culture.
So my friend Kiliona, who I introduced you to, when I was talking about how they gave me the blood after my alaniho, to like protect my mana, he was telling me that fingernails and hair is the same. Where it's like you want to protect those things. I don't know about what was it? You're not supposed to do it at night.
At night.
And I feel like the way you wrote questions, see, now I'm overthinking. You would do 2 in a row that are kind of similar with night, and maybe that'd be different answers. But my first thought was, just because I just learned about the hair and fingernails, I'm at least not going to feel stupid if I'm wrong, but I'll say local. Yes, local.
Well, you are absolutely correct.
Hell yeah, dude.
That is great reasoning.
This educational trip is working.
right there. That was a Slumdog Millionaire moment. Perfect. All right. So you think you're doing pretty well. You're
12
over
more
50%. Oh, did I say 10? I meant 20. My bad. Okay, next question. And this one comes from one of our followers, Kavika_O_Ke_Kai.
I'm hoping
Kavika
Kavika's
Okikai.
not trying to ruin me like you are.
No, I think Kavika has your back.
Okay.
If you rub your dog's makapia pia on your eye, you can see ghost. Is that local or lolo? Do you know makapia pia?
No, I was going to ask
It's
you.
it's like what do they call like the eye boogers or
Oh, yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Like what
If
do you
you-
call them in English?
I think it's eye boogers.
Oh yeah, or like it's like that green
Yeah.
crust, whatever.
If you rub it on your eye, you can see
if you rub it on your eye, you can see ghost.
I mean, I'll go Lolo. Yeah, I'll go Lolo.
I mean, it sounds lolo if you don't believe in ghost.
But I do believe in ghosts, and I believe so much. I just wonder how someone got to that conclusion, where they're like playing with their dog, and then they're like, "I'm gonna rub this in my eye and see if I can see a spirit."
Okay, so lolo.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this one is I'm actually not sure if it's local or lolo.
Did he not know?
I asked if this is a real thing, and he said he hasn't tried it before, but his grandma would always say it. So it sounds like a local thing, but I haven't tried it, so it could be lolo.
Kavika, go find a dog and write the show back in next week. What are you doing? You can go test that yourself.
Yeah, so I just thought it was really interesting because maybe people listening to this, if you know about this, you can tell us, comment on YouTube or on just DM us if it's a real thing. I haven't tried it. I'm not around many dogs, but yeah. So
there's someone listening right now who's just stoned enough and near a dog to be like, I want to see ghosts.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, so that's just you're neither wrong or right.
All right, good.
Okay.
Great.
Last one, and this comes from my little brother, Kuakaloa_Robinson. Okay. And he's a 2020 high school grad. He said, you're not allowed to put lays past your chin during graduation because in 2013, a high school graduate died of suffocation. Is that local or lolo? So you ever seen graduations in Hawaii where there's lays
Everywhere.
all the way up? Like, it's crazy. It's insane.
If this is true, I don't want to laugh at this.
Yeah.
To be clear, he's saying that
You're not allowed.
because
like,
someone had so many lays, they suffocated.
Yeah.
Okay, this is if I'm wrong, my respect to the deceased. I'm so sorry. Lolo?
You're so messed up. Checking it's Lolo. It's Lolo.
I mean, that was so fun. I wanted to give your brother props, but imagine if it was real. And I'm just like, that's the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. What kind of idiot suffocates and lays? And there's some grieving mother listening. Holy shit. Your brother's funny though. That's a really good one. So how many did I get right?
Okay, let's count. Let's see.
I was literally afraid of this.
1, 2,
I feel like
3, 4, 5, 6
Hell yeah,
and a half, I think. I honestly forget, but
I just didn't
I'll
fail.
go back. I think it was over 50%.
That's all.
Let's go 60, 70%.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Hey, you
This is
did a
great.
good job.
This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for participating and thank
Yes.
you for listening, people, and let us know how you did. If you got all of them right, you got all of them wrong. It's just this thing is just all educational. So
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's just a fun way to educate people.
Love it.
Well, all right, now you're a winner in my eyes. So
Thanks,
let's move
buddy.
on to the back half of the podcast. What I like to ask all of my guests when they come on is, what does keeping it aloha mean to them? It's the name of the show. I love the word aloha.
Yeah.
Everybody always has different meanings for aloha. So in your life, how do you keep it aloha?
So I very purposefully, because I'm a fan of the show, did not plan an answer, and I just kind of wanted to see what came to me. And I already sort of talked about, being nice to people you see on the street, but I think that I've been in so many different I've been around so many different people in my life, and where we are right now in the world is like as divisive as you can get, right? Like anytime there's a tragedy in the news, we don't even give ourselves time to mourn or pray. We just automatically have to be like, whose side am I on? And I'm attacking the other side, attacking. You even see this with like Hawai'i activism, right? See with everything. And to me, I think like, how they say, like, it's easy to defend free speech unless you disagree with it. Like, that's how you know you're defending free speech, is can you defend free speech that you are against? And I think I've been so, especially in comedy, the earlier part of my life was so divisive. Like, it was just like attack people for retweets or project my own insecurities out in the world because I'm not taking care of myself. And I think that for me, keeping it aloha is, obviously we want to be kind to everyone we see and encounter, but can we also be kind to the people who we disagree with, to the people who vote differently than us? Can we, using aloha, find something in that person we think we disagree with that we can love? And can we, because I think once you find that one commonality, which, like, look, if you live in Hawaii, like, you already have such a huge commonality, then you can just kind of keep going and keep discovering more things you might have in common. And maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, this is a person I would never want to hang out with, but can you still show love for them? Can you still temper yourself to not freak out? Can you still pray for them? Can you still, can you still be such a beacon of aloha that maybe they see you and they go, I kind of do want to be more like that. Like, one of the things that kept me away from God for so long was I was like, a lot of these religious people suck, and they use religion as an excuse to like oppress people. And so I never wanted to hear about Jesus or God or anything, because I was just like, you guys are just big, you're just mean, right? And I think instead of using your Hawaiianness or your Christianity or your liberalness or your conservativeness to tell people why they're wrong or why they're bad, if you can just be love and be light and project that out into the world, where people are actually going to ask you, they're going to be like, oh shit, man, like, I knew you were Hawaiian. Like, you have that aloha spirit. I couldn't put my finger on it. Or like, oh, you're like a Jesus dude. I thought that like those guys were all just like old white guys who, you know what I mean? And so I think that's my answer. I think keeping it aloha is like, yes, kindness and love and compassion, but can you also do it when you're having a bad day? Can you also do it when you're talking to someone who's annoyed you? Can you also do it when you're overtired? Can you do it when, you're whatever, you're fighting with your wife or your kids are acting up? That's the challenge. And I think if you are Hawaiian, you can sort of rest in that that knowledge of when it feels like you don't have control, it feels like you want to be an asshole or you want to yell at that person or you want to, scream in traffic. You can just go like, oh, that's not me. I was literally built differently. I have aloha in me, which means it's not just me. You know, it's like Hawaii. And like, of course, if I have aloha in me, like I can be cool to this person who maybe is being like an asshole to me. And then maybe that changes their life. Who knows? But if not, it's like, I know that like I've kept it aloha. Does that make sense?
I love that. I think it's just such a great answer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I love everything that you said. It's like, how do you be the light in the darkness?
That's it.
You know, when there's so much darkness. Keeping it aloha is being the light.
That's it.
Is being the sun on the rainy day.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah. And as an optimist, I can't disagree.
Dude, God, we need more
So
optimists in the
local.
world. Have you noticed, like, especially like your generation, my generation, it's almost like become this like uncool thing to be an optimist, where everyone just kind of has to be like cynical.
Mhm.
And I would like to wage a war against that.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to be jaded. Like, oh no, like that person's overly happy. That's not cool.
Yeah,
Or,
everything's
like,
fucked.
there's
like,
no struggle in that life. Like, because it's cool to show the hustle, the struggle,
Yeah.
my life sucks. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
You see stuff on social media all the time, and it's funny. Like, I laugh at those things, but I'm more like a realistic optimist. I think
Yeah.
early on in my life, I was more just like everything is great, nothing's bad. But now I'm
Yeah.
just like, everything is bad, but it's still great.
Yeah.
Everything suck, but there are better things in life. I know that I can get through all the bad times because of how I react. You know, the way you react to things, I feel like is more of a determination if you're an optimist or pessimist.
That's
Because
it. Yeah.
like two things can happen to the same person, and the way somebody reacts is really what makes you an optimist or pessimist.
That's good.
Because I totally acknowledge the bad, the sucky parts of life. Even in my life, as great as it looks, there's still so much, struggle that I go through that I'm not always gonna talk about. Maybe at some point, but it's just like, that's just not the part of life I want to share. But I'm not trying to portray a perfect life. I'm just trying to portray a happy life.
That's it.
Because at the end of the day, I am very happy.
Right.
Like I said, I could die tomorrow and I'd be totally happy. So it's not that my life is perfect. It's not that my life doesn't have bad things in it, because it does.
Yeah.
It's just I choose to, be the happy person rather than like fall into this negativity.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I want to talk about your journey, kind of reclaiming your heritage, and you just got your ala niho, which is huge. I don't have that. I feel like it's a personal choice. I talked to a
Looks like
kalehua.
I'm a little more Hawaiian than Kamaka. With your stupid game.
Stupid podcast. Keep it aloha. Oh, but you can't even
Whatever,
spell aloha.
white man. Stop colonizing my people.
You gotta make a.
I accidentally, by the way, crossed my leg just so it was showing to the camera. And that wasn't even on purpose.
If you're not watching this,
You're missing out.
yeah, you got to make a reel about that. That's gonna be
That's
so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have it planned, right?
I want to make more Hawaii ones. I only made one Hawaii one, just trashing those people who were just the white people.
Oh,
who were,
I
like,
remember that.
idiots about the Lahaina fire.
Mhm.
But like, I really do. I was talking to my friend about this. I want to make more Hawaii stuff, but I also feel like it's a responsibility that like I have so much, and I want to ask your advice because I'm sure it'll help, but help these guys listening. I feel like I have so much education still. What I don't want to do is be like, I'm just starting to figure this stuff out and suddenly act like I'm some fucking expert. And so I'm like, I have so much more education before I start doing like commentary. You know what I mean? But man, I do want to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the trick. The life hack is you do it with another Hawaiian.
Yeah.
You do it with
yeah.
me. Like the guy Markian. I don't know if you saw that video that I did. He came and stayed with me for 3
Oh,
days.
yeah.
That guy, and everyone loved it. He just did it in the best way.
Yeah, that
and
video
I was
blew
there,
up.
and I'm like the Hawaiian buffer. It's like everything he's doing is because not I allowed him, but like I'm saying, oh yeah, this is okay to do.
That's good.
So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
giving
yeah.
him the thumbs up.
That's good.
Yeah. And so it's like if you're doing a video and like sponsored by Kamaka,
Yeah.
it's like a sponsored by Pfizer thing.
That's great.
It's
Yeah.
like
I wouldn't compare yourself to Pfizer, by the
yeah.
way.
Oh, please don't.
Yeah. Wait, did you even get to the question or did we get distracted?
I don't even know.
Reclaiming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
So just talk about that whole thing and like why you decided to do that.
the why it's I mean, very similar to coming to like God, which is I just felt it. I think there have been times in my life where I've tried to force things that I think are gonna fix me, right? Like force a relationship, force I'm gonna rediscover my Hawaiian roots, And you don't what I never wanted to do was I never wanted to like treat it like a midlife crisis. Where it's like I had a breakup, so I'm gonna flee to Hawaii and like
Cut my
learn
hair.
hula and
Yeah.
yeah. Like just like some like much fatter, uglier version of Eat, Pray, Love. Like I never wanted to do that because I cared so much about it. But I also had to just pull the trigger because I mean, I'm 41 and I've just kept pushing it. Pushing it off and pushing it off. And I think your podcast has helped me a lot. Obviously my friends I've made have helped me a lot, but it's a really weird thing to look the way I look and know as little as I know and be so desperate to connect. And my friend Chino, who kind of runs the comedy scene over on Maui, he goes, man, it just happens. Everybody who's over in the States, who's Hawaiian, like something happens at some point in their midlife where they just feel like called. And that's how I feel. And there are times when I listen to your podcast and I go, that's it, I'm all in. And then there are times where I say a Hawaiian word wrong, or I try to use small kind and my brother makes fun of me. And that sets me back like 6 months. And I go, what am I doing? This is terrible. And even this trip, there were moments where I was like, my friend Kiliona and his daughter would, what's the name of when you kind of like chant to like ask permission to like step on land?
Oli?
Yeah. They would Oli, and it brought me to tears. Like the first time it happened, it literally like brought me to tears. And I was just standing there, especially like hearing like a little keiki do it. Like I was just like, huh. And the way I described it to him is like, it's so weird to feel so disconnected and so far away. But then when I heard that, feeling like I've been hearing it in my dreams forever. Like it felt so familiar. But I'm still so nervous to do a game show wrong. Or even when I'm in the States, there are a bunch of Hawaiians in Austin. Like I have a bunch of Hawaiian friends and there are some Hawaiian food trucks. And I feel like I have to tell them, I have to slip it into conversation that I'm Hawaiian before I even say mahalo, because I feel like I look so white, it'll almost sound like I don't want to sound like the white dude who comes back from England and starts saying cheers. You know what I mean? We're like, or even seem like I'm like tokenizing them. Like, hey, mahalo, brah. And it's just like, what's this fucking white Austin influencer doing? And so I'll have to like make fun of myself. I'll have to say like, oh, I know how I look, or I don't want to seem racist, but I'm actually Hawaiian. And then even then I like nervously say mahalo. My white girlfriend is being so supportive that she's like learning the words with me so that we can speak it together, which sounds crazy. But it's actually really helpful because it's really supportive. And, if we move here, she wants to be like a good local and not just some like, shitty alley girl. But I've had so many girlfriends I could have tried that with that I was just too shamed or too embarrassed or whatever. And so it's this real back and forth. On top of that, and maybe this will help some people, I learn things very specific in specific ways, right? So I'm very good at music, but I can't read sheet music. I can't change a string on a guitar. I'm very good at fighting. I can't pay attention watching like instructionals. Even when the keiki like asked me to like tie their belts, I have to pretend where I have to be like, you should know how to tie your belt. I can't tie their belt. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 20 years, but I'm like dyslexic and it's just weird. The way I learn things is very kinesthetically. let me do the move and do it wrong. Let me play the thing and play it. Let me get in front of an audience and try the joke. I'm not good at learning things academically. So even when it comes to like Olelo, you know, people are like, this workbook's good, or this guy's really good at giving lessons, and I'm terrible at it. I'm just not good at learning that way. I feel like I would have to like be here on the island and just have to just start incorporating it more with my friends. But what I'm starting to learn, and maybe you have more thoughts on this, is my sister actually really helped me out with this. She goes, if you're a natural musician, but you're not a natural like language speaker, like I failed Spanish 1 4 times in high school, and then I dropped out. So I'm like, even like learning Olelo, they're like, okay, we're gonna learn how to conjugate a verb. I'm like, I don't know how to conjugate a verb in English. I don't know what that means. So for me, like I've started to read fiction. And so I started reading that, what is it? Sharks in the Time of Saviors. And it's not even a book really about Hawaii. The beginning is, but they're just speaking like a little pigeon in it, or like there's a Hawaiian word, and it just feeling like, you know, as an artist, I learned through creativity, right? Or my sister was like, why don't you learn music and just start looking at the lyrics and singing instead of looking at like an Olelo like workbook. So I'm a guitar player, but Kileona started teaching me ukulele, and I'm like, oh, I can figure this out. And then he showed me like a website. Here's the lyrics. Here's what they mean. And then I'll just listen to it, and who knows if it'll work. But I think that, and I could have no success. I could come back and be like, it failed. But as of now, that seems like the move for me. And so for people listening, it's like, what do you love? And is there a way? Is it surfing, right? Is it, how can you connect with Hawaii through what you're already kind of good at, instead of, I was doing the thing I told people not to do earlier, where I was like, well, I have to go like the regular route. I have to like enroll in like an Olelo Hawaii class or whatever. And I'm just not going to learn that way. And then I'm going to feel even worse. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I can do it through music. Maybe I can do it through writing. Maybe I can do it through, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. But I definitely have a long way to go. So I consider this the beginning, because even the words I use in my day to day are the words that my mom used to use when I was a kid, and I'm just like reincorporating them. But it's fucking hard.
Yeah. Do you feel like you need to like prove your Hawaiianness and like use these words just so people?
Oh yeah. It's like, well, hold on, let me actually think about that. I feel like a lot of it's for me. I think when I use them correctly or naturally, it feels really right. I don't think I'm trying to prove it to other people, because like I live in Texas, so like who gives a shit? I think I'm trying to prove it to like myself. You know, I'm trying to prove it to like the me that didn't believe he was Hawaiian, but has always had such like love and reverence for it. Cause yeah, like I don't care what like the white people in Texas think. Like none of them, half of them don't even know like Hawaiian's a language, you know? So I think it's more I'm trying to prove it to myself, which I don't know if that's healthy or less healthy.
I think it's more healthy.
I think it is. Yeah. Because you don't want to do it because that's another fear, right? That you look like it's just like performative. Like I'm just trying to not be white because white people suck. You know, that's why I would always just be like, for decades. I mean, even in public, when I was like going on my like liberal rants, I'd be like, I'm just a fucking white guy. I'm part of the problem. And it was only this year that I'm like, I'm not. That's crazy. Like I've been calling myself that. No one else is calling me that. I've been calling myself that. And then being over in the States, it gets even more frustrating, because even among like the liberals who are speaking about like anti-racism and blah, 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 I've met some famous ones who are so ignorant and so racist when it comes to Hawaii, or will just use it to vacation and like not give a shit about the colonization, not give a shit about the fires, not give a, you know, try to post videos to somehow make Maui a bunch of like conspiracy, like, you know, you saw it all. And then that infuriates me. And I just want to get to a place where I can just confidently add voice and defend the people and the place that I love. So I'm also putting a lot of pressure on myself, which is probably not good. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, a good friend of the podcast, Kalehua Krug, said, "You don't go to the forest to become a tree."
So good. That guy. I know.
Yeah. So maybe it's not, you're not trying to become a Hawaiian language expert. You're not trying to be a Hawaiian that everybody sees and like, that guy's Hawaiian. It's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the experience that you're getting. You're learning so much and you're discovering things inside of you that have always been in there, but now you're understanding it. So,
well, and I think that's a really good
yeah.
point too, because so much of it can accidentally become performative, as opposed to, I had this moment this week where I had to go through some hard shit, and I felt like being able to internalize, like inside, when I do something strong, when I just like man up and just go like, that's like that Hawaiian warrior side of me, right? Or when I show aloha to someone who disrespected me, just like in my head being like, right, maybe it goes back to my answer for the, how do you keep it aloha? It's like, all that matters is that if you're showing aloha in your day-to-day life, and you can't speak Olelo, like, you're still pretty fucking Hawaiian, because there are plenty of people who can probably speak the language and are mean. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So it's like, maybe that's the starting point for me. Maybe that's the starting point for people who are listening who feel silly. It's like, can you show aloha every day? Can you go to bed every night and be like, how did I show aloha? Then like, yeah, man, that's pretty fucking Hawaiian.
Yeah. What do you think is your goal here? Is your goal to be one day like you are accepted into the Hawaiian community where we have all of our secret honor societies?
Just rubbing.
Did you hear about that?
Dog eye shit.
Yeah. I mean, we all just put chili pepper in our eyes and pee. Or you walk in the room and everybody's just peeing on each other's feet.
Well, I gotta tell you, dude, I've been lucky enough to become friends with like some really like influential Hawaiian people when it comes to like the activism space and the artist space and whatever. I have never gotten the tiniest bit of pushback.
No, it's because we talk behind your back.
That's why they were like, give him 10 questions.
Yeah,
watch
exactly,
him flounder. But like, I mean, that's the ironic part, right? It's like, you can tell yourself all these stories and like, I'm not going to be accepted, but all of the people who I respect, I mean, I've never had anybody once, and I get plenty of shit. I've never had anyone be like, oh, this guy's not Hawaiian, or he's just, whatever. And I think that's because I'm not going overboard as well.
Yeah. Well, you show up with aloha. You leave with aloha,
And like for me, I never want to, what I always tell people, I never want to take more than I can give. So like, I'm not going to move to Hawaii until I'm just in a spot where it's like, I can donate. I can donate my time. I'm like, I can build a little like jujitsu school and help keiki who can't afford it. Like, you don't need another howly looking dude moving here and just like taking up space, and trying to find himself. You know what I mean? So my goal is to get to the point where the podcast is big enough that like I can do it from here and I can be part of the community. I don't want to move here for a beach. I don't want to move here to tell people I moved to Hawaii, or to be able to, use pigeon. Like, I want to move here when like, I can like really be one of the many voices like affecting Hawaii in a positive way. So that's just like a hard rule I've made for myself, which is another reason like, it's cool. It's more incentive for me back home in Austin to learn more Olelo, to learn more about the culture. Because worst comes to worst, I never come here, but when I do, I know more. I can show more respect. I have a Hana on the island. And then if I don't, I'm just like a better person than Austin, and I can bring aloha to Austin and like, dope. Texas needs aloha. We all have guns.
Yeah.
We need a lot of aloha.
Yeah. So the point when you were like at the peak of your career doing comedy sketches.
Yeah.
I mean, stand-up comedy.
We call it the
Going-
year I was almost famous.
The year that you're almost famous.
That's what I call it, yeah.
You're on Conan, you're on Joe Rogan. And this is before Joe Rogan was like, this is early Joe Rogan, yeah?
Dude, the first time it was at his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How? And then
I
that
met
you
his cat.
just got connected to the comedy scene?
No, he found this like rant I did on TV on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
And he blasted it out and then just DM me. And he would like get me tickets to like UFC because it was before like celebrities liked UFC too. So like I was the only other comedian who liked fighting and he just thought that was cool. Whereas now it's like, yeah, like Shane Gillis is in the front row and you're like, that guy doesn't fight. But he's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that.
Oh, okay. So at that point, you weren't on like this journey of rediscovery. You're just doing your own thing in Austin or wherever you were, and now you're at the point of your life where you've already done stuff, and now you're just trying to figure life out again. I feel like you always get to a point where you think you know everything, and then you just gotta figure it out all again.
Yeah. Well, I think here's the difference. Those accolades I needed to do to show the world that I'm special.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all about the external things. Whereas now I'm still doing cool things and I'm still working with like people I admire and, you know, doing cool things, but I don't need them. You know what I mean? And to me now it's about like, be the good person first. You know, before it was like, yeah, Conan was like the coolest thing ever because like Conan was my hero and all this stuff. But right when it was done, I was depressed again because I'm like, oh, I need to get something else now.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wasn't happy with who I was. I had like a failing relationship. I was depressed. I was like selfish. I was in my 20s. I didn't have any like spiritual connection. I was just like all of my worth was based on I have to prove myself and show all the people who doubted me and get more things and, you know, suppress all of my emotions and lash out at people. And it was awful. And like, I wasn't the worst person in the world, but I made like a lot of mistakes. And starting maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, even before that Jesus stuff, like, I don't know, maybe like right before COVID, I kind of started like the whole self-discovery, figuring out who I am, trying to have some relationship with some God, and just waking up every day being like, how can I be a better person? And that has ironically led me to the most success. But the success, it's like, it's not based on the credits. It's not based on the TV shows. It's just based on, it's just bonus. You know what I mean? It's like relationships again. When you're so desperately looking for a relationship, you'll end up in some unhealthy shit, you know? But when you're like, you know what? I'm in the healthiest relationship I've ever been in now because while I would never want it to go away, I think this is the girl I'm going to marry. I am okay. I am so happy outside of the relationship that if it went away, I'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from not just trying to get the next ring, like the next TV credit, the next girl, the next, you know, celebrity retweeting me, the next whatever. It's just literally every day is like, how can I show aloha? How can I be more like Jesus? That sounds like a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
How can I create something? You know, I always want to create something. But it's just, I'm not creating for like, love me, love me, love me, love me. It's just like, I've accepted that I am loved, which is very hard. And yeah, then everything else is just a bonus. And ironically, when you do that, you end up getting like doper shit. And you you end up getting the things you were aligned for, you know, like maybe that's success. Maybe I was supposed to have success in comedy, but it actually wasn't supposed to be like that. So I just course corrected like a little bit, and I'm still using comedy, but it's for something more positive. Talk about mental health, talk about God, talk about Hawai'i, whatever. So it's like I was close. Sometimes we're like close, and then we just start chasing either money or fame or doing the thing that everyone else is telling us to do, even though we feel something in our stomach like, ugh, And he was course correct a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the key. Is before I wasn't even trying to better myself. I was just trying to be a better comedian or a more famous comedian. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it depends what your intentions are. It's always about your intentions, whether, is it to become famous? Is it just to spread aloha?
Yeah.
I have a mentor who's always telling me, like, I've seen this happen before, people get big and, they change. And like, I'm just worried about you. I'm like, I've been the same person since I was young.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this because I want to be famous. I could care less.
I mean, Kamaka did tell me I'm not allowed to make eye contact with him off air. So that was...
No, that's because my eyes were just sore from the sun.
He's just screaming at
Yeah,
interns.
that's what it was. Yeah. hey, did you get my coffee already? Okay, sorry. Oh, it's my bad.
I said no cream.
Yeah,
idiot.
No, but I think it's like, yeah. What is your intention and like your goals? Is your goal to just be the best person in life, or is it to get a bunch of accolades?
Yeah.
Is it to have the biggest podcast, or just to spread a message?
Yeah.
Well,
you got to give yourself credit too, because, I've read some of the books you read, like that Grover book. What's his first name? Anyway, but
Tim, I want to say Tim.
I think it's Tim Grover. It is. And sometimes I read those books and it gets me like too... like back to that just like very mission orientated goal. And you have to balance it with some kind of, aloha, spirituality, Jesus shit, whatever it is. Because if it's just like hustle, grind, it's easy just to start tossing people away, So that balance, like it's, I think I think you're right. When your purpose is spreading aloha, then it's like, sure, man, I'll use these high achievers tricks, because the goal is still spread aloha. It's not like the bang hot chicks.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, that's where you get swept away into garbage.
Yeah, exactly. No, I truly love it all. Before coming here and I guess learning more, like, what was your whole perception of Hawaii and Hawaiians?
Oh, I mean, it was just great. Like we would, we would spend summers here when I was a little kid. And it was like total aloha. If you ask me, like, I don't know if this is still a thing, like the definitive memory, how I would describe Hawaiians when I got home, it would be the 4-way intersection with people going like, no, you go, no, you go, no, you go. Which to me was like very happy. It's like very nice people. It was like that and plate lunches and beaches and
that's funny. If I'm gonna describe, Hawaii is like a 4-way intersection where everybody's telling you to go.
Like, no, you go. And then like getting kind of mad while still like, I'm trying to show aloha, you go. Yeah. And so that was like my biggest thing when I was like a teenager, I would describe it as. Every time I meet a Hawaiian now as an adult, I just get kind of like, I do get kind of in my head, like, do I try to say the words? Are they gonna? So my friend Yako, he's this black belt who teaches with me and Tim Kennedy in Texas. And he has these like 5 Hawaiian keiki, and he's like 100% Kona boy. And his keiki are like the coolest. They're like these like badass little like 12-year-old like fighters, and they're just so sweet. They just exude aloha. And I remember every time I would see them, I'd be like, oh, aloha, how's it? Blah, blah, blah. And the oldest kid, for the longest time, I was going to Hawaii earlier this year. And I was like, hey, I'm going to Hawaii. And he goes, oh, have you ever been? And I go, you know I'm a Hawaiian, right? And he goes, no. And I go, bro, did you just think I was like some white dude coming up to you every day being like, how's it? And he's like, yeah, but you were like so nice. I didn't say anything. And so like, I do get kind of nervous. I want to just start asking questions, I want to just be like, but it seems so lame just to be like, just teach me. But I mean, this sounds so cheesy. But there's just like an admiration. Mm-hmm. There's just, I see a lot of myself in a lot of the Hawaiians I meet while also feeling very distant.
That's tough.
It's weird.
It's a weird dynamic paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. Because you don't want to, It's almost like, yeah, you don't want to just be like, I wish I could be like you. But also there's part that's like, fuck, I wish I could. Or especially being older, like, should I have started learning this earlier? Should I have like, I can barely swim. All my siblings can. So my mom's 70 and still just like swims laps in the ocean like it's nothing. She can barely walk, and you see her just swim, and it's just so natural, for her. And I don't have a lot of that stuff. But then it's also remembering what I do have. It's remembering that like, oh, I do have that aloha. I do have that fighter spirit. I do have that the music and the storytelling and the all that stuff. But man, I mean, I also feel fiercely protective. So when I hear someone be like, oh, lazy Hawaiians, or Hawaiians just like hate white people, like I get fiercely protective very fast. I'll switch flips. And that happens living here too. Or like if I lived here, we were on some sacred site the other day. I saw some Hawai'i lady like put her cigarette out on the ground. I just like walked up to her and I was like, hey dude, like you don't do that, and like walked her to a trash can. Like she like pretended she was gonna pick it up, and I was like, oh, it's over here, I'll take you. It's which, by the way, if you're a Hawai'i and you're a tourist, you should do that anyway when you're over here. Like, be a good influence. Don't let people get away with junk behavior. But I definitely feel like even though I know what I'm ignorant on, which is most things, I still feel fiercely loyal and protective, which is another reason I feel like I need to educate myself more, because me yelling at white people can only go so far before I'm like, I don't really know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just so interesting. And I commend you for going through this journey and humbling yourself at times.
It's a lot of that.
Because, it could come off as like, look at this white guy trying to say he's Hawaiian. Just another episode of South Park.
Right.
Where
Right.
Butters has like an uncle or
that
whatever.
Episode hurt me. Yeah.
But it is so real. And you represent a big majority of the diaspora that, that a lot of people had to go through. So,
well, and the more it's like, the more we can get. So a lot of like my sketches and podcasts, I talk about like Jesus stuff, and I'll curse and I'll talk about how I've had sex and done drugs. And it's really healing for a lot of people who thought they weren't good enough for Jesus because, they've made these mistakes or whatever. So seeing me be like, hey man, I'm trying too, and I'm screwing up, is really good for them. And I also think, by the way, it's total garbage. Just side note, and again, I don't know enough about this, but I'll still throw some shade. Total garbage Christians who are like, will stop people from pursuing like lots of their Hawaiian traditions because they're like, Jesus. Like, to me, it's like Jesus loved everyone. And the idea that you're gonna like shut down Hawaiian traditions in the name of Christianity is like complete bullshit. Anyway, just a side note.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, but I'll get a lot of shit from Christians who go, oh, you're claiming to be a Christian, but you curse, or you're claiming to be a Christian, but you got these, whatever, ancient Hawaiian markings, or, Hawaiians used to do pagan stuff, or, oh, and I've responded to some of them by being like, hey, you're the reason people like me stayed away from religion for so long, because you're not welcoming people. You're not showing love. You're essentially using Christianity to show that you're better than other people, and to discriminate at worst, at best just feel self-righteous, which Jesus flipped over tables about people like that. Like, you're just acting like the Pharisees. In my head, if you really care about something, cool, have your legalistic people here. They're going to get who they're going to get. Have people like me. I'm going to get who I'm going to get. If you really care about the cause, right, you should want as many different voices representing that cause, not just spending your entire career on Instagram comments yelling at people why they're not a good enough Christian or they're not Hawaiian enough or whatever. So back to the Hawaii thing, I think that relates, because it's like, if you truly care about Aloha spirit and about Hawaii and about having the culture be represented so that, people don't think it's just a bunch of, angry, lazy, whatever. You're going to want people like me. You're going to want people who look more howly. And you're also going to want people who don't speak a lick of English and just know Aloha and have been raised here their whole life. And you want people like you who, speak the language fluently, but like, you're so relatable. I would never want to come on a podcast with anything that I believe in, whether it's comedy, whether it's Jesus, whether it's being Hawaiian, and make other people feel like, it's too late. Like, I learned Aloha when I was 16, so like there's no point of you trying. Or, I found I was baptized when I was 12, so like, what are you doing? You already lived your life in sin. Like, that's so gross to me, and that's coming from a place of fear. That's coming from a place of like, I can be the only one. I'm like, I need to be special, so I need to be the Hawaiian, or I need to be special, so I'm the, or you're trying to make it a gimmick. I'm gonna do a one-man show about being a Hawaiian white comedian. Like, we should all be rooting for each other to figure out our own spirituality, Hawaiianness, whatever, in any way we can, as long as it ends with, again, being a good person, helping other people, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, everyone's going to judge, but everybody is still just figuring stuff out.
Yeah. And a lot of times the people who judge the loudest are the ones who are actually struggling the most.
It's projection.
Yeah. Because I did it, and now I can see so easily when people do it.
Yeah.
I just like, when someone just lashes out on you and like an Instagram comment, they don't even follow you. It's just like filled with rage. You just want to be like, yo, I don't know what's going on with you at home, buddy, but like praying for you. Hope things are cool. This is clearly not about me. This is not about the Keep It Aloha podcast. This is about like whatever the fuck is going on with you.
That's how I see things these days. And I try not to respond to comments because they're just so ridiculous sometimes. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. This is nothing all about you. You figure it out. You go fight. And most times it's like a troll or AI bot. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I respond just if I'm bored.
Yeah,
just for fun, but it's really like I tell people it doesn't bother me. I'm just doing it because it's just fun.
Yeah, I always regret it. I've never responded to a mean comment and been like, hell yeah.
I have. I'm like, that's a good comment.
Yeah, you're still young. I'm too old.
Yeah,
I did that already.
Yeah, it just sucks. And this is the last thing I'll say. No matter what you do, as a person who looks physically white, you're always going to be judged, no matter how Hawaiian you are, blood quantum or not, even the way you do things, unless people get to know you. And that's why you always gotta get to know. It's like we're looking at the iceberg and 90% of the iceberg is below the surface.
Yeah.
All we're seeing is the 10% on top of the surface.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the world we live in, you're like, white person, Hale.
Yeah.
There's no way you can be Hawaiian.
Well, I'm glad I live in Texas, so I can only wear shorts where I'm just like pointing to this. But like, what would your advice be to like start? I don't want to say the word journey, and you're gonna know I'm way too Christian. But like to start that, like, just like mindset wise, what would your advice be?
Do it for yourself. Don't do it for others.
That's what it is.
Because at the end of the day, people can say whatever they want. Because if your mind is so strong and you say, you're not Hawaiian enough, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. No matter what they say, I think Brenton Awa said aloha armor.
Ooh.
So have that aloha armor so that no matter what they say, it just ding, ding, ding.
That's good.
That's why when people say anything, I mean, luckily I don't really have anything bad said about the podcast, but once in a while there could be like a troll. Maybe they're commenting more on a clip or something. It just doesn't bother me. Or if somebody says something about me, I don't take things personally because even though I try to explain to Jordan when I'm commenting on stuff, I'm like, I'm not taking it personally. I'm just showing you this comment. It's okay. We have to end this podcast soon because there's people about to start kung fu outside of us, outside of this vault that we're in.
Yeah, but can we just talk about how we're living our 16-year-old dreams? It's like we're talking in microphones, we're talking story, we're making jokes. People are doing kung fu outside. We're in Hawaii. This is the dream, bro.
It doesn't get better than this.
It is the dream.
Yeah, but I would say at the end of the day, just have aloha armor and do it for you because You can do it to prove people wrong, and I love proving people wrong. I love proving myself wrong. I love when my own judgments are wrong. When I meet somebody, I'm just like, wow, I was totally wrong about this person.
That's good.
I also love it when I'm right.
Yep.
You know?
Good.
So at the end of the day, you realize, like I said, I'm always doing it for me.
Yeah.
No matter how selfless you want to be and how much you're doing it to help others.
You can't lose.
There's always, if you do it for you, you're always going to be happy. And the only person you can upset is yourself.
Yep.
The only person you can make happy is yourself. Out of everything in this world, the only thing you can control is yourself. You cannot control anything else. So that's how I live my mindset. So if you want to go on this Hawaiian journey and learn, I'm in no place to judge you or criticize you for what you're doing, because we live totally different lives. We had totally different upbringings. We can relate, we can empathize, but at the end of the day, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
You could say why you're doing it. Maybe there's internal reasons that you don't even want to project to why you're doing it, but that's on you. That's not my life, my concern.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you just do you and have that Aloha armor.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so that's the last thing I'll say. But we do have to start wrapping up this podcast. I'm sure we're going to go talk stories somewhere after this. But I got to know, what is something you wish people knew about you that they don't?
Ooh. That I'm Hawaiian.
You need to get a tattoo on your forehead. I'm Hawaiian. You should wear a token Hawaiian shirt in Texas.
I do want to hang up the Hawaiian flag outside in my very white neighborhood.
Oof.
I think that, man, we talked about so much of it today. I've been through a lot. I'm still fiercely loyal and a romantic, and that gets harder the more you've kind of had your heart broken or been let down or lost friends or whatever, because everything in your body tells you, like, don't get hurt again, just run. And I love the fact that I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna like fall in love. I'm still gonna be loyal and trust. You know, I start a friendship and I'm not gonna be like, oh, is this person gonna hurt me? And yeah, so I think like even with everything I've been through, still having that means a lot to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also got to know before the podcast end, what is your life hack?
Do hard things. Do hard things, because man, it's like when I started jujitsu, I was like 135 pounds. I was like 17. And it's like, if I can show up every day for 20 years or whatever, just like fighting people. So you do that in the morning. You can just always tell yourself when things get hard that like you've done hard things. I mean, this trip was a really hard thing. Doing stand-up comedy is a really hard thing. Like, it looks really fun with me and you do, but like we're putting ourselves out there. Like, it is hard. And I think that like so much of the time we fear and we just want to be really complacent and do really easy things. And I'd rather not put myself out there and just like smoke weed and play video games every day, or I'd rather watch porn than ask that girl out or whatever. And it's like we talked about before. It's so not worth it, bro. And it's like, yeah, you have one life, do hard things. And if you do them and choose the hard things you can do, I would rather choose, I'm going to fight people, I'm going to do comedy, right? Then it's like, accomplishing those things you love and learning how to do the hard things in spaces that you enjoy, you're just gonna be able to cruise for the other stuff.
I love that. Choose your hard.
Choose your hard. That's it.
Choose your hard, but also do hard stuff. Yeah, awesome. Well, I just have my last fast fave 5 questions.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do it without my laptop. I'm just gonna use my photographic memory to see what I wrote down. Okay. Favorite TV show?
This is such a Reservation Dogs. Have you watched that yet?
No, I know what that is.
It's incredible. It just wrapped. Highly recommend Reservation Dogs on Hulu. But like if I'm like depressed or like going through a breakup, any action show where the dude's just like beating up people and like having sex and or avenging a dead wife, I'm all over that.
It's very specific,
yeah,
but
those are my that's my guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's like, yeah.
Favorite Hawaiian food?
any plate lunch. I get furious when they offer green salad instead of mac salad. So I would say any plate lunch with the scoop of rice and mac. And usually I go like just some kind of like barbecue mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And even though I was food poisoned, I had like, although no, I guess that's not Hawaiian food. I was gonna say I had crispy gao-ji before I got here.
Yeah, local.
It's
food.
local. It's local.
Yeah, hey, just like how you're resilient in relationships, you're not gonna let food poisoning stop you from eating more food.
I was like, I'm leaving tomorrow and I haven't had crispy gao-ji. I'm gonna do this and risk getting violently ill on one of my favorite podcasts.
I appreciate the favorite podcast shout out.
Yeah, I got you.
Favorite podcast? No, I'm just joking. All right. Favorite Hawaiian word?
Ooh, kuleana. I'm sure everyone says
kuleana,
that, but it's so good. And it's just like it hits. And it ties into everything we talked about today. If you have kuleana, it's just like it makes everything else like it gives you a North Star to focus on. You know?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Favorite post-jujitsu snack?
Ooh.
Or a comedy snack, whatever.
So before acai was super famous, I'm always late to trendy things. But that was like the only thing you could eat after a competition was the Brazilians would be with the acai. And I remember the first time I competed at the World Championships, I was so hungry because I was weight cutting. It was the first time I had an acai bowl, and I've never had one so good in my life. So yeah, the Brazilian
Have you
vendor.
had one here?
In Hawaii? Not this trip. They're still chasing after the Brazilians. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah.
There's some Brazilian places here.
Okay. Well, all the white people back in the States, they just like add weird shit to it, which I'm like not a fan of. But yeah, acai.
Okay. Awesome. And favorite travel destination?
Travel destination?
Yeah.
It's here, man. It's like, I've described this. One of the ways I would describe Hawaii, if like telling a girlfriend or something, like when I was younger, even like a teenager, I go, I've been to beaches all around the world. There's just something when you get out of the airport, where there's a Honolulu airport here, which is like much bigger, or like in the Big Island or Maui or whatever, and you just have that first smell. It's just there's no place like that. If you can enjoy the airport at a place, like bro, I landed here. I had 3 hours till my ride got here, and I had like Kahlua pork sliders while like standing outside and looking at the mountains. And like, were you gonna get that at Newark Airport or like JFK? Like,
I love that feeling when I'm gone and I come back and the sliding doors open and I feel that hot ocean breeze.
It's the best.
It's like I'm home.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, mahalo, Jamie, for talking stories, coming out here. Sharing your story, and like I'm stoked to get to know you, and I'm sure we're gonna be hanging out and talking stories more after this. But is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
You guys are totally welcome to DM me either about like mental health stuff, or if you have like Hawaii resources you think will be great that I should check out. I'm in and open. I would say my new podcast I'm really proud of. It's called The Back Row, and that kind of symbolizes either feeling like you're in the back row with Hawaii, at church, with politics, with everything, just kind of like standing back and be like, what's happening? And I'm really proud of that show. So you can go to backrowpod.com, and then
on YouTube as well.
Yep.
It's on YouTube.
Yep. I think it's at Backrow Jamie. And Instagram. I have a bigger following on Twitter, and I want to get off Twitter. It's so toxic. So Instagram's where I'm making like sketches and talking about the mental health stuff. So that's at the Jamie Kilstein. I would say that's the biggest one. Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, and then you can find everything else from there.
Yeah. Say hey. Tell me I didn't sound like a crazy white person.
The podcast is very high quality. I've seen some clips.
Yeah.
Doing a great job. And you get great guests. So
yeah,
it's gonna be awesome. Again, just wanted to say mahalo for coming on.
Dude,
here.
I love you, buddy. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you do this. And this was like, I was so excited about this.
Yeah, well, we made it happen. I'm stoked. Mahalo, Jamie, for coming on the Keep It Aloha podcast. Spread love, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. We have new episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host, Kamaka, and remember to always keep it aloha.